There is a moment near the very end of Regular Show where Pops Maellard, the strange, gentle, lollipop-headed man who spent 8 seasons being the kindest person in any room he entered, wraps his arms around the being that has been trying to destroy him. He does not throw a punch. He does not fire a beam of cosmic energy. He hugs his brother, and then he flies them both into the sun. The screen goes white, the music drops, and if you are paying attention, if you have been watching closely enough, you realize that the show just told you what it was always about. Not slackers learning responsibility, not magical objects spiraling out of control, not even friendship, although friendship is the engine that drives every episode. Regular Show was always about what it costs to be good, not in the abstract, not as a slogan, as a lived, daily, exhausting, sometimes fatal commitment. And the space arc, the entire 8th and final season, is where the show strips away every distraction and makes that cost impossible to ignore. This is a show that began with 2 23-year-old groundskeepers trying to avoid work. It ended with the same 2 groundskeepers piloting a park through deep space, watching their friends die, and helping a cosmic being accept his own death so the universe would not collapse. That trajectory, from a bench on a sunny afternoon to the edge of a dying star, is not random. It is the most deliberate thing the show ever did, and it deserves to be examined slowly, carefully, with the attention it earned over 261 episodes. Welcome to Velvo. Get comfortable, settle in, turn the lights down low. This one is going to take a while. We are going to walk through the entire space arc of Regular Show, from the moment the park dome lifts off the ground to the moment Pops watches a VHS tape labeled Regular Show in what appears to be the afterlife. Every episode, every character arc, every quiet decision the writers made that most people watched once, enjoyed, and never thought about again. And if you have not subscribed yet, it genuinely helps us keep making these. Hit that button, get comfortable, and let us get into it. To understand why the space arc works, you have to understand what came before it. You have to understand the specific kind of ending that Regular Show was building toward, and why launching the entire park into orbit was not a gimmick. It was the only honest thing the show could do. Regular Show premiered on September 6, 2010, on Cartoon Network. Created by J.G. Quintel, who had developed the characters and tone through his CalArts student film, The Naive Man from Lollyland, back in 2005, the show built its identity on a simple formula. Mordecai and Rigby, a blue jay and a raccoon, work as groundskeepers at a park. They try to slack off. Something supernatural happens. Chaos ensues. Order is restored by the end of the 11-minute episode. It was, on the surface, a show about nothing in particular. 2 guys on a bench, killing time, occasionally summoning demons by accident. But over 7 seasons, something shifted. Mordecai and Rigby grew up, not in a dramatic, announced way, in the way people actually grow up, slowly, with setbacks, through accumulation rather than transformation. Mordecai navigated a series of romantic relationships that taught him, painfully, that being a good person and being a good partner are not the same skill. Rigby, the character everyone assumed would never change, went back to high school. He studied. He earned his diploma. He fell in love with Eileen, and that love was not a joke. It was the most stable, quietly beautiful relationship on the show. By the end of season 7, the park crew had reached a point where the status quo could not hold. Rigby had graduated. Mordecai had matured enough to recognize his own patterns. Muscle Man had gotten married. Skips had confronted his immortality. Benson had found and lost love. The bench, the park, the routine, all of it had served its purpose. The characters were ready to leave, even if they did not know it yet. And so the show did something radical. In the season 7 finale, Rigby's graduation day special, a dome was placed over the park. Scientists who had been monitoring the park's supernatural activity decided to launch it into space. The park, the house, the snack bar, the fountain, all of it, sealed inside a dome and shot into orbit. And Eileen, who had been inside the house preparing food for Rigby's graduation party, went with them. She walked outside holding a banana souffle and found herself looking at stars instead of sky. That image, Eileen standing in the doorway with a souffle, staring into the void of space, is the entire space arc in miniature. You think you are in one story, You think the ground beneath you is solid, and then everything changes, and you are holding a souffle in the vacuum of the cosmos, and you have to figure out what to do next. Season 8 premiered on September 26, 2016, under the subtitle Regular Show in Space. It would run for 28 episodes, concluding on January 16, 2017, with the three-part series finale, a regular epic final battle. And what the show accomplished in those 28 episodes is, without exaggeration, one of the most ambitious final seasons in the history of animated television. Not because it was flashy, not because it was dark, because it was honest, because it took characters that audiences had known for 6 years and asked them the questions that 6 years of supernatural adventures had been quietly building toward. What do you do when the world you knew is gone? Who are you when you are not defined by your job, your routine, your comfort zone? And what happens when the kindest person you know discovers that his kindness might be the only thing standing between existence and oblivion? The first episode of Season 8 is called One Space Day at a Time. It aired on September 26, 2016, the same day as the second episode, Cool Brobots. And the thing that strikes you about these two episodes, watching them now with the full knowledge of where the season is headed, is how deliberately small they are. The park is in space. The characters are floating through an infinite void, and the show does not open with an epic quest or a cosmic revelation. It opens with survival. The crew has to figure out how to eat, how to breathe, how to keep the lights on inside a dome that was never designed for long-term habitation. Think about that for a second. The show could have jumped straight into the mythology. It could have introduced anti-pops in the first episode, set the stakes, launched the plot. Instead, it spent its first 2 episodes on groceries, on resource management, on the mundane, grinding, unsexy work of keeping people alive. And that choice tells you everything about what the space arc is actually doing. It is not a sci-fi adventure that happens to feature these characters. It is a character study that happens to take place in space. The void is not the point. The people inside the dome are the point. The void just removes everything else. Mordecai and Rigby, in these early episodes, do what Mordecai and Rigby have always done. They look for shortcuts. They try to make the situation fun. They resist the reality of their circumstances, but the show is already signaling that the old formula will not hold. In Cool Brobots, a group of robots arrive at the dome offering to help. They are friendly. They are efficient. They handle all the tasks the crew has been struggling with. And Mordecai and Rigby, for perhaps the first time in the entire series, are suspicious. Not because they have become paranoid, because they have grown up enough to know that when something seems too good to be true, it usually is. That is not the behavior of 2 slackers killing time on a bench. That is the behavior of 2 people who have learned, through 7 seasons of consequences, that the easy path usually leads somewhere terrible. The robots, of course, turn out to be a problem. The specifics matter less than what the episode reveals about where these characters are. Mordecai and Rigby are not the same people who set a bunch of hot dogs on fire in the pilot episode. They are adults now, trapped in an extraordinary situation, and the show is going to hold them to adult standards. That shift, from comedy driven by irresponsibility to comedy driven by responsibility under pressure, is the engine of the entire space arc. The jokes still land, the absurdity is still there, but the stakes are real in a way they never were before, because the characters have become real in a way they never were before. If you are enjoying this so far, subscribing genuinely helps us keep making these. Welcome to Space is the 3rd episode of Season 8. It aired on September 27, 2016, and it is the episode where the space arc properly begins, because it is the episode where the show introduces the world beyond the dome. The park crew is rescued, or perhaps recruited, by the Space Tree Station, a massive orbital facility run by Colonel Rawls. Rawls is military. He is authoritative. He is competent in a way that none of the park crew, with the possible exception of Skips, has ever been. And he tells them, flatly, that they are now part of a program. They will be trained. They will explore planets. They will serve a purpose. The introduction of Colonel Rawls does something crucial to the dynamic of the show. For 7 seasons, the authority figure was Benson. Benson was their boss, their antagonist, their reluctant father figure. He yelled. He threatened to fire them. He cared more than he would ever admit. But Benson's authority was always domestic. It was the authority of a manager, a landlord, a guy trying to keep a park running. Rawls's authority is institutional. It is military. It is the kind of authority that does not care about your feelings, your history, or your friendship with the guy in the next bunk. It cares about the mission. And Benson, watching someone else take command, watching his crew follow orders from a stranger, reacts exactly the way Benson would react. He wants to go home. He does not want to explore space. He does not want to be trained. He wants his park, his routine, his control. The show does not judge him for this. It does not make him the butt of the joke. It lets him feel what he feels, and it lets the audience sit with the uncomfortable recognition that Benson's desire to go home is perfectly reasonable. He did not ask for this. None of them did. But the dome is in space, and space does not care what Benson wants. This is where the show introduces the characters who will become central to the space arc. Chance Surshot, Toothpick Sally, Recap Robot. These three work under Rawls at the Space Tree Station, and they represent something the park crew has never had to deal with: competence without friendship. Surshot is skilled, confident, and professional. Sally is tough, capable, and uninterested in small talk. Recap Robot is, well, a robot that recaps things. They are not antagonists. They are not even unfriendly. They are simply people who take their work seriously, and their presence forces the park crew to confront the gap between who they are and who they need to become. That gap is the heart of the early space arc. Episode after episode, the show puts the park crew in situations where their old habits, their old skills, their old ways of solving problems are not enough. Space Creds, the fourth episode, is a perfect example. Mordecai and Rigby want to buy hover boots. They do not have the currency. In the old show, this would be a simple adventure: find the money, get the boots, learn a lesson. In the space arc, it becomes a mission. They have to rescue a scientist's ex-spouse to earn the credits. The stakes are higher. The world is less forgiving. And the boots, when they finally get them, feel earned in a way that objects in the old show rarely did. Lost and Found, Episode 5, takes the crew to a hostile planet to retrieve Chance Surshot's wallet. Again, the surface plot is simple. But the episode is really about the park crew proving themselves to the Space Tree Station. It is about earning respect in a world that does not know them, does not owe them anything, and will not give them credit for 7 seasons of saving the world from supernatural threats. Because out here, in space, nobody knows about the time they fought a giant baby duck. Nobody knows about death punchies, or the coffee bean war, or any of it. They are nobody, and they have to build something from nothing. Ugly Moons, Episode 6, sees Colonel Rawls hire Muscle Man to prank a rival station called the Bush Station. This episode does something the space arc does brilliantly throughout its run. It takes a character trait, Muscle Man's love of pranks, and transplants it into a context that changes its meaning entirely. Pranking someone at the park is juvenile. Pranking a rival space station on behalf of your commanding officer is espionage. Same skill, completely different stakes, and Muscle Man, who has always been the show's most underestimated character, thrives. He is good at this. He is useful, and watching him discover that his particular brand of chaos has value in this new world is one of the quiet joys of the early space arc. But the episode that changes everything, the one that takes the space arc from a fish-out-of-water comedy to a mythological epic, is Episode 7, The Dream Warrior. It aired on September 30th, 2016. And it is the episode where Pops starts having nightmares. The nightmares are specific. A creature invades Pops's dreams. It asks for his name. It asks for his address. It is looking for him, and it is not friendly. Pops's distress is so severe that his latent powers, the strange telekinetic abilities the show has hinted at for years, begin to manifest involuntarily. Objects float. The house shakes. His friends cannot sleep because Pops cannot sleep. And that detail, that his suffering literally disrupts the people around him, is the show telling you something about Pops that it has been whispering for 8 seasons. His emotional state affects reality, not metaphorically. Literally. When Pops hurts, the world hurts with him. The nightmare creature is named Carl. He is, essentially, a bounty hunter of the subconscious, hired to find Pops and report his location. And the entity that hired him makes its first appearance at the end of the episode. A figure that looks like Pops, but darker, inverted, wrong. The show does not name him yet. It does not explain who he is or what he wants. It just shows him, a shadow of the gentlest character on the show, and lets the audience feel the chill. That figure is anti-Pops. And his introduction at the tail end of The Dream Warrior is one of the most effective villain reveals in animated television, precisely because the show does not treat it as a reveal at all. There is no dramatic music, no monologue, no cliffhanger text saying to be continued, just a dark shape, a cold presence, and then the episode ends. The show trusts the audience to feel the wrongness without being told to feel it, and that trust, that restraint, is what separates regular shows' storytelling from its peers. Think about what the show has set up in just 7 episodes. A crew stranded in space, a military structure they did not choose, a set of new allies whose competence highlights their own inadequacy, and now, a threat that is not random, not accidental, not the result of someone being lazy or reckless. A threat that is coming for one specific person, for reasons that go back further than anyone in the dome understands. The space arc has shifted from survival comedy to cosmic horror, and it did it so gradually that you barely notice the ground moving beneath your feet. The episodes that follow, The Brain of Evil, Fry's Night, Spacey McSpacetree, Can You Ear Me Now, and Stuck in an Elevator, all serve a dual purpose. On the surface, they are standalone adventures. Mordecai and Rigby accidentally release a dangerous sentient brain. Benson, dumped by his girlfriend Pam, goes on a melancholy quest for French fries. Rigby has to pass a safety test administered by an insufferable instructor. The crew gets trapped in an elevator on the way to a concert. Each episode is funny. Each episode works as an 11-minute story. But underneath each one, the show is doing something else. It is building the world of the space arc, piece by piece, making the audience comfortable with this new setting so that when the mythology explodes, the characters have somewhere solid to stand. Fry's Night deserves a closer look. Benson has been dumped by Pam, his girlfriend from earlier seasons. He is not angry. He is not dramatic. He is just sad. And his sadness expresses itself in the most Benson way possible. He decides he needs French fries. Not just any French fries. Perfect French fries. And he goes on a quest through space to find the ingredients, the right potatoes, the right oil, the right technique. It is absurd. It is also one of the most accurate depictions of grief in the entire show, because grief does not always look like crying. Sometimes grief looks like obsessing over something small, something controllable, something that fills the space where a person used to be. Benson cannot fix his relationship. He cannot go home. He cannot change what happened, but he can make French fries. And the show lets that be enough. It does not mock him. It does not give him a pep talk. It just follows him through the cosmos on a quest for fried potatoes. And somehow, by the end of the episode, you understand exactly how lonely he is. That is the kind of storytelling the space arc excels at. Small emotions in vast spaces, personal grief against the backdrop of infinity. The show understands, intuitively, that space does not make human problems smaller. It makes them sharper. When you are surrounded by nothing, the things inside you become everything. Can You Ear Me Now has Mordecai and Rigby accidentally caused sound pollution on a planet inhabited by beings with extremely sensitive hearing. They are put on trial. It is a comedy episode, played for laughs, and it works. But the episode is also about consequences in a new world. At the park, Mordecai and Rigby could break things, and the worst that happened was Benson yelling. In space, breaking things means interplanetary incidents, diplomatic crises, court cases on alien worlds. The scale of consequences has expanded, and the characters are learning, slowly and sometimes painfully, that their actions ripple further than they ever did before. Stuck in an Elevator traps the crew in a space elevator while trying to get to a concert. It is a bottle episode, the kind of story where characters are confined to a small space and forced to interact. And what makes it work is how much these characters have to say to each other when they cannot run away, cannot fight a monster, cannot solve the problem with a magical solution. They just have to sit there and be together. And the show reminds you, quietly, that the park crew's greatest strength has never been their ability to fight supernatural threats. It has been their ability to tolerate each other, to care about each other even when they are annoyed, frustrated, trapped in an elevator in deep space with no way out. That tolerance, that stubborn, imperfect, deeply human commitment to staying in the room even when you want to leave, is what will carry them through the battles ahead. The Space Race, Episode 13, sees Colonel Rawls enter Mordecai and Rigby in the annual Interstation 5000, a dangerous race between space stations. The Space Tree has been losing this race for years, and Rawls replaces the station's previous racers, Hans and Lars, with Mordecai and Rigby. Hans and Lars, furious at being replaced, defect to the rival Bush station to compete against them. This episode is pure action. The race is violent. Racers are encouraged to sabotage, bump, and destroy each other's vehicles. It is, on the surface, the most straightforward episode of the space arc. But beneath the adrenaline, the episode is doing something important. It is showing Mordecai and Rigby earning their place, not through speeches, not through character development monologues, through performance. They enter the race as replacements, as second choices, as the guys nobody believes in, and they compete. They fight. They prove, to Rawls, to the station, to themselves, that they belong here, that 7 seasons of escalating chaos taught them something after all. They know how to survive when everything is exploding around them. They have been training for this their entire lives. They just did not know it. Operation Hear No Evil, Episode 14, has Benson attempting to get revenge on someone through TV spoilers. It is a lighter episode, a breather before the storm, and the show knows what it is doing, placing this bit of comic relief exactly where it needs to go, because the next episode changes the entire season. Space Escape, Episode 15, October 12, 2016. This is the episode where Anti-Pops arrives. The setup is almost casual. Mordecai and Rigby go to a space convenience store to celebrate their graduation by grabbing snacks. It is a normal moment, 2 friends grabbing chips and soda, the kind of scene the show has done 100 times. And then they hear something, sounds of an attack. They peek around a corner and see him, a figure who looks like Pops but wrong, darker, colder. And they watch as he erases the store clerk with a wave of his hand. Not kills, erases. The clerk simply ceases to exist. One gesture, and a person is gone. Let that sit for a second. The show does not linger on the horror of this. It does not give the audience time to process it. Mordecai and Rigby run. They make it back to the Space Tree Station. They warn the others. And Anti-Pops arrives almost immediately, leading an army, attacking the station, tearing through everything the crew has spent the first half of the season building. The attack on the Space Tree Station is the fulcrum of the entire space arc. Everything before it is setup. Everything after it is consequence. And the show treats it with the weight it deserves. Colonel Rawls, the stoic, competent authority figure who has been running the station, makes a choice. He stays behind. He fights. He buys time for the park crew to escape, knowing, the show makes this clear, knowing that he is not going to survive. The Space Tree Station explodes behind the retreating park dome. Rawls is gone. Chance Surshot makes the same choice. When Anti-Pops' flagship fires a cannon at the escaping dome, Surshot flies his ship into the cannon. He destroys it. He saves everyone. And he does not come back. 2 deaths. 2 sacrifices. In a show that, for 7 seasons, had death as a recurring character. A guy named Death who played basketball and had a wife and showed up to parties. Death was a joke. Death was a friend. And now Death is the thing that takes Rawls and Surshot, 2 people the crew had just begun to know, 2 people who chose, deliberately and without hesitation, to trade their lives for the park crew's survival. The show does not comment on this. It does not add dramatic music to tell you how to feel. It just shows you the explosions, shows you the dome flying away, shows you the faces of the characters who survived. And those faces tell you everything. Mordecai is not cracking jokes. Rigby is not complaining. Benson is not yelling. They are just sitting there, in a dome floating through space, carrying the weight of what just happened. 2 people died so they could live. That is not a prank gone wrong. That is not a magical object causing chaos. That is war, and the park crew is in it now whether they want to be or not. Space Escape is the single most important episode of the space arc, because it is where the show tells the audience, without equivocation, that this season is different. Characters will die, sacrifices will be real. The dome is not a comedy set anymore. It is a lifeboat. And the people inside it are not slackers. They are refugees. The episodes that follow Space Escape carry this weight. New Beds, Episode 16, aired October 13th, 2016. The crew encounters a bounty hunter while trying to buy new equipment. It is a functional episode, a necessary story beat, but the tension underneath it is new. Before Space Escape, a bounty hunter would have been a fun adventure. After Space Escape, a bounty hunter is a reminder that Pops is looking for them, that they are being hunted, that the universe has become a hostile place. Mordecai and Rigby, Episode 17, aired October 14th, 2016. A teleportation experiment causes Mordecai and Rigby to progressively swap body parts. It is funny. It is weird. It is the kind of episode regular show has always excelled at, taking a simple sci-fi concept and exploring it through the lens of two friends who know each other too well. But even here, in the middle of a body swap comedy, the show is doing something deeper. Mordecai and Rigby literally become each other. They experience life from the other's perspective, and the episode, beneath its absurdity, is asking a question the space arc keeps returning to. How much of who you are is who you chose to be, and how much is just the body you were born into, the role you were assigned, the expectations that were placed on you before you were old enough to resist them? That question, identity as choice versus identity as destiny, is the central question of the space arc. And no character embodies it more fully than Pops. Alpha Dome, Episode 18, aired October 20th, 2016. The park crew discovers the Alpha Dome, the very first park dome ever sent into space. Inside, they find people who believe it is the year 1690. A time anomaly has regressed the inhabitants, and their leader, Silas, has been exploiting their confusion, using his knowledge of technology to rule over people who think they are living in the 17th century. The episode is a standalone adventure, resolved within 11 minutes. But it is also a mirror for the park crew's own situation. They, too, are people trapped in a dome, subject to forces they do not fully understand, led by figures whose authority they have to trust without full information. The difference is that the park crew has each other. They have friendship. They have the accumulated trust of 7 seasons of shared experience. And that trust, the episode suggests, is the thing that keeps them from becoming the Alpha Dome, from being led by fear instead of by love. The Alpha Dome also gives the crew coordinates, directions to something important. And that something leads them to the next phase of the space arc, the phase where the show stops being about survival and starts being about Pops. Terror Tales of the Park 6, Episode 19, aired October 27th, 2016, just in time for Halloween. It is the 6th installment of the show's annual horror anthology, and it features 3 stories: a fear manifestation, vampires, an alien roommate. It is a breather episode, a holiday special, a chance for the show to have fun before the mythology takes over completely. And the show earns this breather because of what comes next. The Ice Tape, Episode 20, November 3rd, 2016. This is the episode where the show tells you who Pops really is. Following coordinates given to them by the Alpha Dome crew, the park gang arrives at an ice planet. In the middle of the frozen landscape, they find a video store. The staff recognizes Pops. They lead him to a chest containing a VHS tape made entirely of ice. To play it, they need to find an ancient VCR capable of handling the frozen tape. And when they do, when they finally watch the recording, the show reveals the truth that 8 seasons have been building toward. Pops is not from Earth. He is not Mr. Maellard's biological son. He is a being from a planet called Lollyland, born as Mega Kranus, the embodiment of pure good. And he has a twin brother, Mega Kranus, the embodiment of pure evil, Pops. Every 14 billion years, the universe produces these 2 beings, one good, one evil, and they are destined to fight. Every time they have fought, the battle has ended in a stalemate. Their perfectly balanced powers cancel each other out, and the universe resets. Everything, every person, every planet, every moment of joy and suffering and love and loss, all of it is erased, and the cycle begins again. By most accounts, this has happened at least 20 times, maybe more. The exact number is written on the body of a man named Earl, who has trained every incarnation of Pops for the battle. Each time the universe resets, Earl survives. He is immortal, and he gets a new tattoo, a portrait of the Pops he just lost. Think about what that means, and think about the weight of that single detail. An immortal man covered in tattoos of people he trained, people he cared about, people who died, over and over, in a cycle that never ends. Earl does not get to grieve. He does not get to move on. He just gets another tattoo and starts training the next one. That is not a character detail. That is a tragedy compressed into a visual. And Pops, gentle, innocent, jolly good show Pops, is the latest in a line of beings who were born to fight and die. Every version of him before now ended the same way. A battle, a stalemate, a reset. The universe collapses. Everything is lost, and it starts again. This is the revelation that transforms the space arc from a final season into a final statement, because the show is now asking the most important question it has ever asked. Can Pops break the cycle? Can kindness, real kindness, the kind that Pops has practiced every single day of his existence, do something that cosmic power never could? Can love win where strength always draws? The show does not answer this question immediately. It lets it hang in the air. It lets the audience sit with the enormity of what has been revealed. And then it moves into the next phase of the arc, the training. This episode is also notable for a reason the show itself never mentions. The ice tape contains the final television voice work of David Ogden Stiers, the legendary actor known for his role as Charles Emerson Winchester III on MAS. H. Stiers voiced Mr. Maellard, Pops' adoptive father. He passed away in March of 2018, a little over a year after the episode aired. The show, of course, had no way of knowing this. But there is something quietly devastating about the fact that Stiers' final performance involves a father figure connected to a story about cycles, loss, and the hope that this time, maybe, things will end differently. A quick reminder that subscribing helps the channel more than you might think. We appreciate every one. The Key to the Universe. Episode 21, November 10th, 2016. Earl begins training Pops for his confrontation with anti-Pops, and the training is not what you expect. Earl does not teach Pops to fight. He does not hand him a weapon or show him a technique. He has Pops do chores, washing dishes, scrubbing floors, moving plates. The park crew watches this and assumes Earl is just using Pops as free labor. They are annoyed. They are protective. They want Pops to be shooting fire from his hands, not mopping a floor. But the chores are the training. Each repetitive, mundane task is teaching Pops to focus his power, to channel the cosmic energy inside him through precise, controlled movements. The show is making a statement here that goes beyond the plot. It is saying that mastery does not look impressive. Mastery looks like washing dishes. Mastery looks like showing up every day and doing the small things with complete attention. The spectacular moments, the fire and the flying and the beams of light, those come later. They come because someone scrubbed enough floors first. Pops, characteristically, does not complain about the chores. He does them cheerfully, the way he does everything cheerfully. And this is the moment where Pops' kindness stops being a personality trait and becomes a superpower. Not metaphorically, literally. His willingness to do the unglamorous work, to be patient, to trust the process even when he does not understand it, is what allows him to access his full power. The show has been telling you this for 8 seasons. Pops has always been the most powerful character in the show. He just never needed to prove it before. His power was dormant because he never chose violence, never chose confrontation, never chose to assert himself over anyone. And now, with the universe at stake, the show is revealing that his gentleness was not weakness. It was discipline of the highest order. No train, no gain. Episode 22, November 17th, 2016. Pops' training continues, and this time, Mordecai and Rigby try to help. They create a training montage, not metaphorically. They literally construct a training montage, using a technique that Earl says allows trainers to bend space and time. The montage accelerates Pops' development. He begins to access his powers consciously, shooting fire from his hands, the thing Rigby had wanted to see in the previous episode. But the montage traps them. Mordecai and Rigby, in trying to help, accidentally lock Pops inside the time-bending training sequence. The montage keeps going. Pops keeps leveling up, and the crew has to find a way to pull him out before the training consumes him entirely. The song Mordecai and Rigby use for the montage is "Through the Fire and Flames" by Dragon Force. This is not a random choice. It is, famously, one of the hardest songs to play in Guitar Hero 3. The show is making a joke, a good one, about the absurdity of using a video game anthem for cosmic training. But it is also making a point. The most intense, the most demanding, the most seemingly impossible challenges are just games to someone who has been playing long enough. Mordecai and Rigby know impossible challenges. They have been facing them every week for 8 seasons. And their particular expertise, their ability to navigate absurdity with confidence, is exactly what Pops needs right now. This episode also reveals something important about Earl. He has done this before, many times. He has trained Pops after Pops after Pops, and every single one has failed. Not because they were not powerful enough, because power was never the answer. The stalemate that ends each cycle happens precisely because both sides are equally powerful. Strength meets strength, and the universe breaks. Earl knows this. He has watched it happen at least 20 times, and yet he keeps training. He keeps trying. He keeps hoping that this Pops, this time, will find a way to do what none of his predecessors could. That is faith. Not religious faith, not blind optimism. The faith of a man who has seen the worst outcome over and over and still shows up for the next training session. Because the alternative is giving up, and giving up means the cycle wins by default. Christmas in Space, Episode 23, December 1st, 2016. A 4-part holiday special featuring a Yeti, a supernatural caroler, an interdimensional mall, and Krampus. It is Christmas, the crew is in space, and the show allows itself one last moment of pure celebration before the final act begins. Holiday specials on regular show have always been more than filler. They are the episodes where the show drops its guard and lets the characters just be together, enjoying each other's company, without a crisis demanding their attention. Christmas in Space does this beautifully. The park crew decorates the dome. They exchange gifts. They argue about Christmas traditions. They are, for one episode, not soldiers or refugees or cosmic warriors. They are just friends celebrating a holiday in a strange place. And the warmth of that celebration is so palpable, so genuine, that it makes what comes next hurt even more. Because after Christmas, the show enters its final stretch, 4 episodes leading to the finale, and each one tightens the vice a little more. Kill 'Em with Kindness, Episode 24, January 14th, 2017. Pops' training is complete. He has full control of his powers. He is, by any measurable standard, ready to fight Anti-Pops, and he refuses. Pops does not want to fight his brother. He wants to talk to him. He wants to understand him. He contacts Anti-Pops directly, reaching out across space, and tries to have a conversation. He tries to find common ground with a being whose entire existence is defined by the desire to destroy him. The park crew watches this and they are terrified. Not because Pops is in danger, although he is, because they have seen what Anti-Pops can do. They have watched him erase people. They have lost Rawls. They have lost Surshot. They know, with the certainty of people who have experienced loss, that Anti-Pops cannot be reasoned with. And yet Pops tries. He tries because that is who he is, not because he is naive, not because he does not understand the danger, but because he believes, with every molecule of his being, that there is something in Anti-Pops that can be reached. Anti-Pops does not agree. He attacks. And Pops, true to his word, does not fight back. He uses his powers only to block, only to defend, only to survive. He will not throw a punch. He will not match violence with violence. And the episode builds to a terrifying crescendo as Anti-Pops pushes Pops to the absolute edge of destruction, nearly erasing him from existence, before the park crew arrives and pulls Pops to safety. The crew barely makes it back to the dome. They escape the asteroid where the confrontation took place as Anti-Pops erases it behind them. And Pops is damaged, hurt, nearly gone. But he did not fight. He did not abandon who he is. And the show does not frame this as foolishness. It does not frame this as a mistake that Pops needs to learn from. It frames it as the bravest thing anyone has done in the entire series. Think about that. In a show filled with fistfights and explosions and characters punching their way out of impossible situations, the bravest act is refusing to fight. The show is not being subtle about what it is doing here. It is redefining heroism, not as the willingness to fight, as the willingness to extend kindness to someone who will almost certainly use it to destroy you. That is a harder thing than fighting. That requires more courage, more strength, more conviction than any punch ever could. Meet the Seer. Episode 25, January 14th, 2017. With Pops in critical condition, the crew follows Earl's instructions to a planet called Nielsen. But when they arrive, the planet has been taken over. Internet, the antagonist from the Format Wars episodes earlier in the series, has returned. It has evolved into streaming. Planet Nielsen, a world dedicated to traditional media formats, has been conquered by the future. This is one of the most meta episodes in regular show's history. The Seer, the omniscient being the crew has come to find, is essentially a stand-in for the audience. She watches, she observes. She has been following the park crew's adventures, and she knows, as the audience knows, that the story is ending. The Seer mentions that while she enjoyed watching the antics of the park crew, eventually it has to come to an end. She is talking about the show, about regular show itself, about the fact that this is the final season, and the story, like all stories, has to conclude. The crew, with the help of the remaining Format Guardians, DVD, who now goes by HD DVD, fights through the streaming forces to reach the Seer. And the Seer gives them what they need: guidance, direction, the knowledge of where they must go to end this. Lollyland, the birthplace of Pops and Anti-Pops, the place where the cycle began, and the place where it must end. The meta-commentary in this episode is extraordinary. Regular show, a show that has always been deeply aware of media, of formats, of the cultural landscape it exists within, uses its penultimate episodes to acknowledge its own mortality. The show knows it is ending. The characters know their story is concluding. And the Seer, watching from her planet, is the audience, holding on to these characters, not wanting the story to end, but understanding that it must. Cheer Up Pops, Episode 26, January 16th, 2017, the final episode before the finale. And it is, in many ways, the most important episode of the entire space arc. The crew is heading to Lollyland. The final battle is imminent, and Pops breaks down. He cries. He tells his friends, openly and without pretense, that he is terrified, not of dying, of failing, of being responsible for the deaths of everyone he loves, of not being strong enough, or good enough, or brave enough to break a cycle that has destroyed the universe at least 20 times before. The crew's response is the emotional heart of the entire series. They throw a party. They gather everyone they can. And one by one, people step forward and pledge to help Pops in the battle. Death volunteers first. Death, the character who has been a recurring figure throughout the show, the personification of the thing Pops is most afraid of, stands up and says he will fight alongside him. Think about the poetry of that. Death, offering to die. The end of things, choosing to help something continue. It is a moment that only works because the show has spent 8 seasons building these relationships, making these characters real, giving the audience reasons to care about every person in the room. When Death volunteers, it is not a plot device. It is a friend stepping up for someone he loves. Pops' breakdown in Cheer Up Pops is one of the most honest depictions of fear in animated television. He is not afraid of the enemy. He is afraid of himself, of his own inadequacy, of the possibility that all the goodness in the world is not enough to stop the darkness. And the show does not reassure him. It does not give him a pep talk that solves his fear. It gives him something better. It gives him people. People who know the risks and choose to stand with him anyway. Not because they are confident, because they love him. The party in Cheer Up Pops is the last moment of peace in the entire series. The crew laughs, they tell stories, they record memories, they make a video, a time capsule of who they are right now, in this moment, before everything changes. And the show holds on these moments with a tenderness that is almost unbearable when you know what comes next. If you have made it this far, you are exactly the kind of viewer we make these for. Subscribing helps us reach more people like you. A regular epic final battle, episodes 27 and 28, January 16th, 2017, the series finale of regular show. About 33 minutes long, spanning 3 11-minute episodes, the longest episode the show ever produced, and one of the most ambitious, emotionally devastating finales in the history of animated television. The Park Dome arrives at Lollyland, and the planet is exactly what you would expect from the birthplace of Pops. Pink, ruined, beautiful in a broken way, the landscape is littered with the debris of a civilization, ruins of buildings, shattered vehicles, the remains of what was once a thriving world. This is what happens when the same planet serves as a battleground every 14 billion years. Nothing survives. Nothing grows. Everything is destroyed and rebuilt and destroyed again, over and over, in a cycle that has no beginning and no end. The crew meets the natives of Lollyland, and they learn the full history. Pops's true name is Mega Kranus. Anti-Pops's true name is Kranus. They are not just brothers. They are the universe's way of balancing itself. Good and evil, creation and destruction, existing in perfect equilibrium. And every time they fight, that equilibrium produces a stalemate that resets everything. The natives have seen this before, many times. They know how it ends. They tell the crew, with the flat certainty of people who have watched the same tragedy play out repeatedly, that Pops will fight anti-Pops. They will be equal. The universe will reset. And none of this, nothing the crew has done, nothing they have built, nothing they have loved, will survive. But this time is different, and the difference is the park crew. In every previous cycle, Pops fought alone. He faced anti-Pops one-on-one, power against power, good against evil, and the result was always the same. Stalemate, reset, oblivion. But this Pops, this specific incarnation, is not alone. He has Mordecai and Rigby. He has Benson and Skips, and Muscle Man, and High Five Ghost and Eileen. He has people who love him, people who chose to fly across the galaxy and stand beside him on a ruined planet. People who pledged at a party that they would fight and, if necessary, die. That is the variable the cycle never accounted for. Not power, not destiny, friendship. The simple, stubborn, irrational fact that these people care about each other enough to stand in the path of cosmic annihilation. The show has been building to this for 8 seasons. Every episode where Mordecai and Rigby saved each other from a supernatural disaster. Every time Benson chose the crew over his own frustration. Every moment where Pops's kindness made someone's day a little better. All of it was preparation, not for a battle, for this moment. The moment where the accumulated weight of 7 years of friendship becomes the only weapon that matters. The battle begins, and it is everything the show promised it would be. Pops and anti-Pops collide with the force of cosmic entities. The crew fights anti-Pops's army. There are sacrifices. There are moments of heroism. There are moments where it seems like the cycle will win, like the stalemate is inevitable, like all the love and all the friendship and all the kindness in the universe cannot change what has been written since the beginning of time. And then Pops makes his choice. He stops fighting. In the middle of the battle, with the universe tearing itself apart around him, with his friends fighting for their lives, with anti-Pops bearing down on him with everything he has, Pops stops. He drops his guard. He opens his arms, and he hugs his brother. That is the moment. Not the battle, not the explosions, not the cosmic energy or the fate of the universe. The hug. Pops wraps his arms around anti-Pops, the being who has been trying to kill him, the embodiment of everything he is not, and he holds on. And then he flies, straight up, into the sun. Anti-Pops does not resist. Something in the hug breaks through. Something in the simple, physical act of being held by someone who loves you, who has always loved you. who will love you even as you both burn, reaches the part of Anti-Pops that has been buried under 14 billion years of hate. He hugs Pops back, and they fly into the sun together. Not as enemies, as brothers. The screen goes white, and Pops is gone. The show does not rush past this. It does not cut to a joke, or a resolution, or a, "but wait, he survived" twist. It lets the white screen sit. It lets the silence breathe. And when the image returns, the park crew is back on Earth. The dome has landed. They are home, and Pops is not with them. What follows is one of the most beautiful sequences in the history of animated television. A montage set to David Bowie's Heroes, the 1977 song about two lovers standing against the world for a single day. The crew returns to their lives. They leave the park. They grow up. They grow older. Mordecai becomes an artist. He marries a bat named Steph. They have 3 children. He paints in a studio filled with light, and his art is good, and his life is quiet, and he is happy. Rigby and Eileen marry. They have a large family. The love that began awkwardly, tentatively, across the counter of a coffee shop 7 seasons ago becomes the foundation of an entire life. Benson finds peace. Muscle Man raises his family. High Five Ghost pursues his passions. Skips, immortal Skips, continues. He has always continued. He always will. And 25 years after the dome landed, they all come back. They return to the park for a reunion. They are in their 50s now, gray-haired and slower, carrying the weight of decades. And they stand in the park, the same park where it all began, and they talk about Pops. They talk about what he did, about the fact that none of their lives, none of their families, none of their happiness would exist without him. Mordecai and Rigby, 54 years old, find an old arcade game in a shed. They play it. They laugh. They say their old catchphrases and shake their heads at how immature they used to be. And it is funny. It is genuinely funny. 2 middle-aged men reliving their 20s, remembering when the biggest problem in the world was avoiding work on a sunny afternoon. But it is also devastating, because the audience remembers too. The audience was there for all of it. Every prank, every disaster, every time Benson yelled, and Mordecai sulked, and Rigby complained, and Pops said "jolly good show," and meant it with his whole heart. And then the camera pulls back, away from the park, away from Earth, past the stars, and we see Pops. He is in a bright, warm, undefined space, something like an afterlife, something like peace. He is watching a VHS tape on an old television. The tape is labeled "regular show." He has been watching the entire thing. Every episode, every season, every moment of chaos and kindness and growth and loss. And when the tape ends, when the picture fades to static, Pops ejects the cassette, looks up, and says 2 words, "Jolly good show." And that is the end. Not the end of a season, not the end of an arc, the end of regular show. The end of a story that began with a student film at CalArts in 2005, when a young animator named J.G. Quintel drew a naive man from a place called Lollyland and wondered what his story might be. It turned out to be this, a story about 2 slackers, a magic park, and a gentle man who loved the world so much that he flew into the sun to save it. The space arc is not just the final season of regular show. It is the reason the show exists. Everything, every episode, every character, every bizarre supernatural event was leading here, to a dome in space, to a ruined planet, to a hug, to a sun, to a VHS tape in the afterlife, and 2 words that contain everything the show ever wanted to say. Think about the structure of what the show built across this final season. 28 episodes. The first 7 establish the setting, introduce the new characters, let the park crew adjust to life in space. Episodes 8 through 14 deepen the world, complicate the relationships, and plant the seeds of the mythology. Episode 15, Space Escape, detonates the status quo and turns the season into a survival story. Episodes 16 through 19 give the characters room to breathe while advancing the plot. Episodes 20 and 21 reveal Pops' origins and begin his training. Episodes 22 and 23 provide the final moments of levity. Episodes 24 through 26 tighten the emotional vice until the characters and the audience can barely breathe. And episodes 27 and 28 the finale, release everything the season has been holding back, in a rush of action, sacrifice, and grace that leaves nothing unresolved. That structure is not accidental. It is not the result of a writer's room improvising from week to week. It is architecture. Careful, deliberate, brilliantly executed architecture. Every episode in its right place. Every character arc arriving at its conclusion precisely when the story needs it. Every joke, every action sequence, every quiet moment, serving the larger whole. The space arc also resolves character arcs that the show has been building for years. Arcs that have nothing to do with cosmic battles or ancient prophecies. Mordecai's arc, across 8 seasons, is about learning to be present. In the early seasons, he is always somewhere else emotionally, pining for Margaret, overthinking his relationship with CJ, living in his own head while his actual life happens around him. The space arc forces him out of his head and into the world. There is no time for pining when you are being chased by a cosmic entity. There is no room for overthinking when the people next to you need you right now, in this moment, fully here. And by the end of the series, Mordecai is present. He is an artist, someone whose entire practice requires attention to what is actually in front of them. He marries someone who is not Margaret, who is not CJ, who is someone new, someone who belongs to the chapter of his life where he finally stopped chasing the past and started living in the present. The show does not explain this. It does not give Mordecai a speech about growth. It just shows you his life, 25 years later, and trusts you to see the change. Rigby's arc is about proving that he is not a joke. For 7 seasons, Rigby was the character nobody took seriously. He was lazy, he was immature. He was the worst employee at the park by a wide margin. And then he went back to high school. He graduated. And in the space arc, he does something even more important than earning a diploma. He earns the trust of people who have no reason to give it to him. Colonel Rawls, Chance Surshot, Toothpick Sally. These are serious people doing serious work, and Rigby proves himself to them not by changing who he is, but by applying who he is to something that matters. His energy, his recklessness, his refusal to accept that a situation is hopeless. These are the same traits that made him a terrible groundskeeper. In space, they make him invaluable. The show is telling you that there is no such thing as a useless person. There are only people in the wrong context. Benson's arc is about letting go of control. Benson has spent the entire series trying to maintain order, managing the park, managing his employees, managing his own emotions by channeling everything into anger and authority. The space arc takes all of that away. He is not in charge anymore. Rawls is. The park is not his to manage. It is a dome floating through space. And Benson, stripped of his role, his authority, his identity as the guy who keeps everything running, has to figure out who he is when he is not managing anything. The answer, the show suggests, is a person. Just a person. Someone who gets sad about breakups. Someone who goes on quests for French fries. Someone who, when the time comes, stands with his crew not because it is his job, but because he loves them. Benson's journey from boss to friend is one of the quietest, most beautifully executed arcs in the entire series. Skips is immortal. He has always been immortal, and the space arc gives that immortality new meaning. In the context of the park, Skips's immortality was a useful plot device. He had seen everything. He knew the solution to every supernatural problem. He was the answer key in the back of the book. In the context of the space arc, his immortality becomes a burden. Because Skips knows what Earl knows. He knows that cycles repeat. He knows that people die and the universe continues and nothing, not even immortality, can protect you from loss. The space arc gives Skips the rare opportunity to fight alongside people he knows he will outlive, people he chooses to care about despite knowing, with the certainty of someone who has lived for centuries, that he will eventually have to stand at their graves. That choice, to love people you will lose, is the most human thing Skips has ever done. Muscle Man's arc is simpler, but no less important. He found love. He got married. He has a family waiting for him back on Earth. And in the space arc, Muscle Man fights not for glory, not for adventure, not for the thrill of battle, but to get home, to get back to his wife, to be the father his child needs. The show does not dramatize this. It does not give Muscle Man a tearful monologue about his family. It just shows him fighting harder than anyone else, with a desperation that has nothing to do with bravery, and everything to do with a man who has something to live for and refuses to let it go. Eileen's presence in the space ark is one of the show's most quietly radical decisions. She was not supposed to be there. She was in the park house making food for Rigby's graduation party when the dome launched. She did not volunteer for this mission. She did not choose to be stranded in space. And yet, once she is there, she becomes indispensable. Not because she has special powers or unique skills, because she is calm, because she is smart, because she approaches every crisis with the kind of steady, analytical competence that the rest of the crew, for all their supernatural experience, often lacks. Eileen's arc in the space ark is about being seen. For most of the series, she existed in the margins. She was Rigby's love interest. She was Margaret's friend. She was the quiet one. The space ark moves her to the center, not through dramatic action, but through consistent, irreplaceable contribution. She is the person who notices things, the person who asks the right questions, the person who, when everyone else is panicking, is already working on a solution. And the show rewards this by letting her relationship with Rigby deepen into something real, something that survives the return to Earth, something that produces a family and a life and a happiness that neither of them could have imagined when they first met at the coffee shop. There is a version of this story where Eileen is a victim. She was trapped. She did not choose to be there. She could have been written as someone who resents her situation, who wants to go home, who blames Rigby for bringing her into this world of supernatural chaos. The show rejects that version completely. Eileen is not a victim. She is a participant. She is exactly where she needs to be, even if she did not know it until the dome lifted off. And her presence, her accidental, unplanned, souffle-holding presence, is one of the things that makes this Pops different from all the Popses that came before. Because this Pops does not just have friends. He has a community. He has people who were not destined to be there, who were not chosen by the universe, who just happened to be in the park house at the wrong time and chose to stay. That is the argument the space ark is making. Destiny is real. Cycles repeat. The universe has patterns that stretch back billions of years. But within those patterns, within those cycles, there is room for accident, for choice, for the random, beautiful, impossible fact of people caring about each other despite having no cosmic reason to do so. The universe did not put Eileen in that dome. A graduation party did. And a graduation party, a banana souffle, and a woman who chose not to fall apart, those are the things that broke a cycle that had lasted since the beginning of time. The show also uses the space ark to make a statement about endings. Regular Show was a show that, for most of its run, avoided endings. Episodes reset. Characters returned to the status quo. The park was always there. The bench was always there. The sun was always shining. The space ark is the show's conscious decision to stop resetting, to let things end, to let characters grow old, and change, and die. The dome is not just a setting, it is a declaration. We are leaving the park. We are leaving the bench. We are going somewhere we have never been, and we are not coming back. That declaration takes courage. For a creator, for a writer's room, for a network, the safest option is always to keep things the way they are. Keep the characters young. Keep the setting familiar. Keep the audience comfortable. J.G. Quintel and his team chose the opposite. They chose to honor their characters by letting them complete their stories, by giving Mordecai a life beyond the park, by giving Rigby a family, by giving Pops a sacrifice that meant something, by giving the audience an ending that, while painful, was true. The use of David Bowie's Heroes in the finale montage is not a coincidence. The song was released in 1977. It is about two lovers who know their time together is brief, who know the world is against them, who choose to be heroes for a single day because that is all they have. And the show uses it to score a montage of 25 years. A quarter century of life, of love, of growth, of aging, of loss, of reunion. The song says, we can be heroes, just for one day. The show says, the day does not have to end. The heroism does not have to be a single moment. It can be a life. It can be the slow, unspectacular, deeply ordinary heroism of raising children, making art, showing up at a reunion, and remembering the friend who made it all possible. Pops watching the VHS tape in the afterlife is the final image of the series, and it is perfect in a way that almost defies analysis. He is watching regular show, the show he is in, the show we are watching. He ejects the tape and says, "Jolly good show," and in that moment, the boundary between character and audience dissolves completely. We have been watching Pops for 8 seasons. Pops has been watching us. Or rather, Pops has been watching the same show we have been watching, and his verdict, his final judgment, is the same as ours. It was a good show, a jolly good show, and now it is over, and we have to eject our own tape and go back to our own lives, carrying with us the things the show gave us. Laughter, kindness, the knowledge that 2 slackers on a bench can, given enough time and enough love, help save the universe. The space arc works because it is honest about what endings cost. It does not pretend that growth is painless. It does not pretend that sacrifice is heroic in a clean, uncomplicated way. Pops dies. That is the cost. The gentlest person in the show dies so that everyone else can live. And the show does not redeem that cost with a resurrection, or a twist, or a he was actually fine all along. Pops is gone. He watches from the afterlife, which is a comfort, but he is gone from the world of the living. His friends grow old without him. His father, Mr. Maellard, dies years later without ever seeing his son again. The cost is real. The grief is real. And the show respects both the cost and the grief by refusing to diminish them. But the space arc also argues that the cost is worth paying, not because Pops' death was noble, although it was, because of what his death made possible. 25 years of life. Marriages, children, art, reunion. The park, still standing, still green, still catching the afternoon sun. All of it exists because Pops hugged his brother and flew into the sun. All of it exists because a gentle man chose love over power, kindness over combat, sacrifice over survival. And the show asks you, quietly, in the final moments, whether you believe that trade was worth it. Whether a life of goodness, even one that ends in fire, is better than a cycle of stalemate that goes on forever. The answer, the show suggests, is yes. Not emphatically, not with trumpets and fanfare. With a VHS tape, an old television, and 2 quiet words. Jolly good show. There is one more thing the space arc does that deserves attention before we go deeper into the individual episodes and their construction. The space arc is funny. It is, from start to finish, very funny. The jokes are sharp, the physical comedy is inventive, the dialogue crackles with the same energy that made the show a hit in 2010. The space setting gives the writers new tools to work with, new worlds to visit, new absurdities to explore, and they use every one of them. And that matters. It matters because the humor is load-bearing. Remove it, and the mythology collapses under its own weight. Keep it, and everything breathes. But the humor in the space arc is different from the humor in Season 1. It has aged with the characters. In the early seasons, the comedy came from irresponsibility. Mordecai and Rigby broke something because they were lazy, and the escalation was funny because the punishment never fit the crime. In the space arc, the comedy comes from competence under absurd pressure. The characters are not failing because they do not care. They are succeeding despite impossible circumstances. And the gap between the seriousness of the situation and the casualness of their response is where the laughter lives. When Muscle Man pranks a rival space station, the comedy is not that he is goofing off. It is that his goofing off is now military strategy. When Rigby fails a safety test, the comedy is not that he is incompetent. It is that he is being tested on safety procedures for a space station while the person administering the test is more annoying than any threat in the actual cosmos. This evolution of the show's comedy is one of the most underappreciated aspects of the space arc. The writers did not just transplant the old jokes into a new setting. They grew the humor alongside the characters, and the result is a season that feels both fresh and familiar. You laugh at these characters because you know them, because their reactions to space are exactly what you would expect from 7 years of watching them react to everything else. And that familiarity, that deep audience knowledge of who these people are, is what allows the comedy to coexist with the tragedy. You can laugh at Mordecai trying to buy hover boots because you have watched him try to buy things for 7 seasons. And you can cry when Pops hugs his brother because you have watched Pops hug people for 7 seasons. The comedy and the tragedy come from the same source: knowledge, love. Time spent with people who are not real but feel real because you gave them your attention. Let us go back to the beginning of the space arc and look at something most people miss about the premiere episode. One Space Day at a Time opens with the park crew in a state of genuine panic. They have just been launched into space. The dome is sealed, Earth is gone, and according to news reports that flicker across the screen in those early moments, other locations on Earth have also been domed and jettisoned. Mr. Maellard, Pops' adoptive father, has been implicated in the conspiracy. The whole thing is bigger than the park, bigger than the crew, bigger than anything the show has dealt with before. And in the middle of this chaos, Mordecai and Rigby try to get a phone signal. They take the space cart, the golf cart they have been driving around the park for 7 seasons, and pilot it out to a nearby satellite. They are trying to call someone, anyone. They are trying to connect to the world they just lost, and for a brief moment, they get a signal. A single text comes through. It says, "Trust no one." That text sets the paranoid tone of the early space arc. The crew does not know who sent it. They do not know what it means. And the show, brilliantly, does not resolve this mystery quickly. It lets the uncertainty simmer. It lets the characters look at each other sideways, wondering who knew about the dome, who planned this, who can be trusted. And then, when the spaceship arrives at the end of the episode, when the cool bro bots show up in episode 2 with their helpful smiles and their convenient solutions, the audience is primed to distrust them, because the show told us, trust no one. The cool bro bots are a perfect example of the space arc's approach to familiar regular show tropes. In any other season, the robots would be the antagonists of a single episode. They would cause trouble, get defeated, and never appear again. In the space arc, they represent something more systemic. They represent the seduction of passivity. The robots do everything. They clean, they cook, they manage. And the park crew, exhausted and disoriented, is tempted to let them, to stop struggling, to let the machines handle everything. The show is asking whether the crew will maintain their agency or surrender it to the first thing that offers to carry the weight. This is a question the space arc asks repeatedly, in different forms, across the entire season. Will you do the hard thing yourself, or will you let someone else do it? Will you face the discomfort of growth, or will you retreat into the comfort of dependency? And the answer, every time, is that the hard thing is the right thing. The discomfort is where the growth happens. The dependency is the trap. Let us talk about what the space arc does with the concept of home. Because home is perhaps the most important word in the entire season, and the show defines it in at least 3 different ways across 28 episodes. The first definition is literal. Home is Earth. Home is the park. Home is the bench, the house, the snack bar, the familiar geography of 7 seasons. This is the home Benson wants to return to. This is the home the crew lost when the dome launched. And the space arc is honest about the pain of losing this home. Benson's arc, in particular, is a sustained meditation on displacement. He did not choose to leave. He was not consulted. He was not given a chance to pack a bag, call his family, or even say goodbye. One moment he was at a graduation party. The next moment he was in space. And his response, his desperate, angry, sometimes irrational desire to get back to Earth, is not played as comedy. It is played as the completely understandable reaction of a man who lost everything familiar in a single instant. In Welcome to Space, Benson's resistance to the space tree station is rooted in this loss. Everyone else is adapting. Everyone else is finding reasons to engage with this new world. And Benson is standing in the corner, metaphorically and sometimes literally, refusing to participate. Not because he is stubborn, because participating means accepting that he is not going home. And acceptance, in Benson's case, feels like betrayal, like giving up on the life he built, like admitting that the park, the thing he poured his entire identity into managing, is gone. The show gives Benson time to grieve this. It does not rush his acceptance. It does not have a character give him a speech that fixes everything. It lets him be angry and sad and difficult, episode after episode, until the grief works itself out organically. And when Benson finally starts to engage, when he finally starts to see the Space Tree Station as something other than a prison, the audience feels the shift because the show earned it. Not through a dramatic moment, through patience. The second definition of home is interpersonal. Home is not a place. Home is the people you are with. This is the definition the show has been building toward for 8 seasons, and the space arc makes it explicit. The dome contains the park, but it also contains the crew. And the crew, trapped together in a confined space, forced to rely on each other for everything from food to emotional support, discovers that their bond is the only thing that does not change when everything else does. The park is the same physical space, but its meaning has shifted. It is no longer a workplace. It is a shelter, and the people inside it are no longer co-workers. They are a family. This shift is gradual, and the show handles it with remarkable subtlety. There are no "we are family now" speeches. There are just moments, small moments. Mordecai checking on Pops after a nightmare, Rigby making sure Eileen is comfortable, Muscle Man cracking jokes to keep morale up, Skips quietly fixing things that break, the way he has always fixed things, because that is how Skips shows love. He does not talk about his feelings. He maintains the machine. He keeps the lights on. And in the context of a dome floating through the void of space, keeping the lights on is an act of love more profound than any declaration. The third definition of home is the one the finale delivers. Home is wherever you are fully yourself. Home is not a place or a group of people. Home is a state of being. Pops finds his home not on Earth, not in the dome, not on Lollyland, but in the act of embracing his brother. In the moment of the hug, Pops is completely himself, fully good, fully brave, fully present. And that, the show argues, is what home actually is. Not the absence of danger, not the presence of comfort, the presence of self. This is why the finale works even though it ends in death. Pops does not survive, but he arrives home. He reaches the place where he is exactly who he was always meant to be. And the distinction between surviving and arriving, between living and being fully alive, is the philosophical heart of the entire space arc. Think about how radical that is for a children's show. Regular show, which aired on Cartoon Network, which was watched by millions of kids and teenagers, spent its final season arguing that the most important thing in life is not survival, it is authenticity. It is being fully, courageously, recklessly yourself, even if that self leads you into the sun. That is not a message most animated shows are brave enough to deliver. It is not a message most adult shows are brave enough to deliver. And regular show delivers it through a lollipop-headed man in a top hat who says, "Jolly good show," and means it every single time. Let us go deeper into the mythology. Because the lore of the space arc, the cosmic framework that the show constructs around Pops and Anti-Pops, is more carefully built than most analyses acknowledge. The universe of regular show operates on a cycle. Every 14 billion years, the universe produces 2 beings of equal and opposite power. One embodies creation, goodness, light. The other embodies destruction, evil, darkness. They are drawn to each other by the fundamental physics of existence itself. They must fight, and when they fight, their equal powers produce a stalemate that collapses the universe, resetting everything. Every person, every planet, every memory, gone, and the cycle begins again. This is not just a backdrop for the final battle. It is a cosmological statement. The show is arguing that the universe itself is caught in a loop, that existence is, at its most fundamental level, a repetition, a tape that plays and rewinds and plays and rewinds. And the question the space arc poses is whether that tape can ever stop rewinding, whether the cycle can be broken, whether something new, something unprecedented, can emerge from a pattern that has repeated since the beginning of time. Earl's tattoos are the visual representation of this cycle's weight. Every incarnation of Pops that Earl has trained, every version of the Chosen One that fought Anti-Pops and lost, is marked on his body. His skin is a history of failure, a record of every time hope rose and was extinguished. And Earl keeps training. He keeps preparing the next Pops for the next battle, knowing, with the certainty of someone who has lived through at least 20 resets, that it will probably end the same way. That is not optimism. That is something deeper than optimism. It is commitment to a process whose outcome you cannot control. It is showing up for the work because the work is all you have. The relationship between Pops and anti-Pops mirrors a philosophical concept the show never names but clearly understands. The problem of theodicy. The question of why evil exists in a universe that also contains good. Regular show's answer is structural. Evil exists because good exists. Anti-Pops exists because Pops exists. The universe cannot produce one without producing the other. They are not opponents by choice. They are opponents by design. And the tragedy of their relationship is that neither of them asked for it. Anti-Pops did not choose to be evil any more than Pops chose to be good. They were both assigned their roles by a universe that requires balance, and the show has the courage to let you feel sympathy for both of them. This is most visible in Kill 'Em with Kindness, when Pops reaches out to Anti-Pops. He does not do this because he is naive. He does this because he understands, perhaps more deeply than anyone else in the show, that Anti-Pops is his brother, that Anti-Pops is suffering too, that the cycle has been as cruel to the destroyer as it has been to the creator. And when Pops refuses to fight, when he uses his power only to defend, only to survive, he is not rejecting violence for tactical reasons. He is rejecting the premise of the cycle itself. He is saying, through his actions, that he will not participate in a system that demands destruction, that he will not be what the universe made him to be, that he chooses, against all cosmic logic, to be something else, something the universe has never seen before, a chosen one who will not fight. That refusal is the most important moment in the entire series, more important than the hug, more important than the flight into the sun, because the refusal is the seed. Everything that follows, the final battle, the sacrifice, the breaking of the cycle, grows from this single act of cosmic disobedience. Pop says no, not no to anti-Pops, no to the universe, no to the cycle, no to the idea that good and evil must always destroy each other. And from that no, from that impossibly brave, impossibly gentle no, something new becomes possible. The show reinforces this theme through its treatment of the Format Wars mythology. The Seer on Planet Nielsen, Internet's evolution into streaming, the return of the Format Guardians. These are not random callbacks to earlier episodes. They are the show's way of talking about itself, about media, about the cycle of creation and consumption and obsolescence that all television shows, including regular show, are caught in. Planet Nielsen, the home of the Seer, is a world dedicated to tracking and measuring audience attention. It is, quite literally, the Nielsen rating system as a planet. And when the crew arrives, they find it has been conquered by streaming. The old ways of measuring attention, the old formats, the old systems, have been overrun by something new, something faster, something that does not care about traditional metrics of quality or significance. The meta-commentary here is almost painfully direct. Regular show aired on traditional television. It was measured by traditional ratings, and by its final season, the media landscape had shifted dramatically. Streaming services were ascendant. Traditional ratings were becoming less relevant. The show was ending not just because the story was complete, but because the world the show existed in was changing. And the show acknowledges this. It looks at the transformation of its own industry, translates it into narrative, and makes it part of the story. The Seer tells the crew that she enjoyed watching them, but that all things must end. She is talking to the characters. She is also talking to the audience. And she is also talking to the show itself. Regular show knows it is ending. It knows the tape is almost over. And rather than pretend otherwise, rather than fight the ending or deny it, the show embraces it. It walks toward its conclusion with the same gentle courage that Pops walks toward the sun. Let us examine the structural choices J.G. Quintel and his team made in constructing the space arc, because those choices reveal a level of craft that is easy to overlook when you are caught up in the emotion of the story. The first and most important structural choice is the season's division into two halves. The first 14 episodes, from One Space Day at a Time through Operation Hear No Evil, constitute the first half. This half is characterized by episodic storytelling within a serialized frame. Each episode works as a standalone story, but each one also builds the world, develops the characters, and plants seeds for the mythology. The tone is lighter, the stakes are lower, the audience is being acclimated to the new setting. The second half, from space escape through a regular epic final battle, is serialized storytelling with episodic grace notes. The mythology takes center stage. The stakes escalate with every episode. The characters are tested, broken, rebuilt. And the episodic elements, the standalone adventures and comedic detours, serve as breathing room within a relentless narrative arc. This two-part structure mirrors the show's overall trajectory. Regular show spent its first 4 or 5 seasons as an episodic comedy. Then, gradually, it introduced serialized elements, relationship arcs, character development that persisted across episodes, mythology that built over time. The space arc compresses this entire evolution into a single season. It starts episodic and ends serialized, moving through the same arc in 28 episodes that the show as a whole moved through in 261. The second structural choice is the placement of the key mythology episodes. The Dream Warrior, Episode 7, introduces the threat. Space Escape, Episode 15, escalates it. The Ice Tape, Episode 20, reveals the truth, the key to the universe, and No Train No Gain, Episodes 21 and 22, prepare for the battle, Kill 'em with kindness, Meet the Seer, and Cheer Up Pops, Episodes 24 through 26, set the emotional stage. And a regular epic final battle, Episodes 27 and 28, conclude everything. Notice the pacing. 7 episodes of setup before the first mythology beat, 8 episodes between the threat introduction and the escalation, 5 episodes between the escalation and the revelation, 2 episodes of training, 3 episodes of emotional preparation, and 2 episodes of conclusion. The gaps between major beats get shorter as the season progresses. The pacing accelerates. The audience feels the story tightening, feels the walls closing in, feels the inevitability building. This is not intuitive storytelling. This is engineering. The writers knew exactly when to drop each piece of information, and they timed it with precision that would make a watchmaker jealous. The third structural choice is the use of breather episodes. Terror Tales of the Park 6 comes right before the mythology starts to dominate. Christmas in Space comes right before the final stretch. These are not filler, they are essential. They give the audience emotional rest. They remind the audience of what it feels like to just hang out with these characters without the weight of cosmic destiny pressing down on every scene. And they make the heavy episodes heavier by contrast. You feel the darkness more because you just experienced the light. This is a technique borrowed from prestige drama. Shows like Breaking Bad and The Sopranos understood that you need moments of quiet to make the loud moments land. Regular Show, an 11-minute animated comedy on Cartoon Network, deploys this technique with the same sophistication as any HBO drama. And the fact that nobody talks about this, the fact that the craft of the space arc is rarely analyzed at this level, is itself a statement about how animated shows are perceived. People see the medium and assume simplicity. The space arc is anything but simple. If you are still with us, thank you. Subscribing is the single best way to support what we do here. Now let us talk about something the show does that almost no one discusses. The space arc as a war story. Because beneath the comedy, beneath the mythology, beneath the character arcs, the space arc is fundamentally a story about people caught in a conflict they did not start and cannot escape. It is a story about civilians becoming soldiers, about friends becoming fighters, about the gap between who you were before the war and who you become during it. Space Escape is the inciting incident, the attack on the Space Tree Station, the deaths of Rawls and Surshot, the transformation of the dome from a home into a lifeboat. These are war story beats. They are the beats of any story about ordinary people caught in extraordinary violence. And the show handles them with a gravity that respects both the genre and the audience. Rawls' death is particularly significant. He is not a main character. He appeared in fewer than 15 episodes. But his sacrifice hits hard because the show took the time to make him real. He was stern but fair. He was competent but not infallible. He cared about his station and the people on it. And when the attack came, he did not hesitate. He did not give a rousing speech. He did not have a flashback to his family. He just told the crew to go and turn to face the enemy. That simplicity, that lack of dramatic embellishment, is what makes the moment devastating. Rawls dies the way real soldiers die, without fanfare, without time to say goodbye, just a decision and a consequence. Chance Surshot's sacrifice carries a different weight. Surshot is younger. He is more relatable. He is the kind of person the audience can project onto, the skilled but unassuming professional who does his job well and does not ask for recognition, and he destroys the cannon. He flies his ship into the weapon that would have killed everyone in the dome. He makes a calculation, in the space of a second, that his life is worth less than theirs, and he acts on that calculation without hesitation. The show does not glorify these deaths. It does not frame them as beautiful or noble or inspiring. It frames them as losses, things that were taken, people who should still be alive, and the crew carries these losses for the rest of the season. They do not talk about Rawls and Surshot in every episode, but you can see the weight in their movements, in their decisions, in the way they approach danger after space escape. They are more careful, more serious, more aware that the next fight could be the one that takes another friend. This is what war does to people. Not the dramatic, visible trauma that makes for good television, the quiet recalibration, the awareness, always present, always humming in the background, that today might be the last day, that the person next to you might not be there tomorrow, and the decision, the daily, exhausting decision, to keep going anyway, to keep laughing, to keep caring, to keep being human in a situation designed to strip humanity away. The park crew, by the end of the space arc, has been through a war. They may not call it that. The show may not frame it explicitly in those terms. But the evidence is there in every frame, in the way they hold each other, in the way they look at Pops before the final battle, in the way they stand together on Lollyland, a ruined planet that is also a battlefield, and face something that could end everything. They are soldiers. They are scared. And they are there because they chose to be. Because love and loyalty brought them to a place that logic and self-preservation would have told them to avoid. The connection between the space arc and J.G. Quintel's original vision for Pops is worth examining in detail. Quintel created Pops in 2005 in a Cal Arts student film called The Naive Man from Lollyland. The film was part of a creative exercise where students drew prompts from a hat and had 48 hours to make a short. Quintel's short was about a naive ambassador who loses his composure during a routine encounter. It won both the Producer's Choice Award and the Student Animator Award at the 2005 Nicktoons Film Festival. The word Lollyland was there from the beginning. About 12 years before the finale aired, Quintel named Pops' home. He did not know, in 2005, that Lollyland would become the setting for the final battle of a show that would run for 8 seasons on Cartoon Network. He did not know that the naive man from his student film would become Mega Kranus, the embodiment of pure good, the being whose sacrifice would save the universe. But the seed was planted, the name was chosen, and when the show returned to Lollyland in the finale, it was completing a circle that began in a Cal Arts classroom over a decade earlier. This matters because it reveals something about the space arc's relationship to the rest of the show. The space arc is not a departure. It is a homecoming. The show spent 7 seasons wandering, exploring, building a world of parks and pizza places and supernatural vending machines. And in its final season, it went back to where it started, to Lollyland, to the naive man, to the essential story Quintel always wanted to tell, about a kind person in a hostile world, trying to find their way home. The writing staff for Season 8 deserves recognition. Matt Price served as story editor, overseeing the narrative architecture of the entire season. Calvin Wong served as supervising director, guiding the visual storytelling across the full run of episodes. The team operated under the pressure of concluding a beloved series, and they met that pressure with work that was consistently sharp, emotionally resonant, and structurally sound. The fact that 28 episodes maintain such a high level of quality, with no weak links, no filler, no episodes that feel like the team was running out of ideas, is a testament to the discipline and care they brought to the final season. Let us return to the finale and examine it from a different angle. Not the plot, not the mythology, the craft. Because a regular epic final battle is, From a pure filmmaking perspective, one of the most technically accomplished episodes in the show's history. The finale runs about 33 minutes, spanning 3 11-minute episodes. That is 3 times the length of a standard regular show episode, and the pacing never lags, not once. 33 minutes of animation, and every single minute is earned. The action sequences are kinetic and inventive. The emotional beats land precisely where they need to. The transitions between scenes are fluid and purposeful. Nothing is wasted. The battle on Lollyland is choreographed with the care of a feature film. Pops and anti-pops clash in sequences that shift between cosmic scale and intimate close-up. The crew fights anti-pops' army in sequences that give each character a moment to shine. Muscle Man uses his strength. Skips uses his experience. Mordecai and Rigby use their chemistry, their ability to improvise under pressure, the skill they have been honing since the pilot. Even Eileen, the accidental participant, contributes in ways that feel true to who she is. Calm, precise, effective. But the technical achievement that most impresses is the montage. The hero's montage that closes the series. It runs for several minutes. It covers 25 years. And it does something that most montages fail to do. It tells a story, not just a sequence of images. A story about growing up, growing old, growing apart, and coming back together. Each shot is chosen with care. Each transition carries meaning. The progression from youth to middle age to reunion is rendered with the kind of attention to detail that makes you want to pause every frame and study it. Mordecai's painting career is shown in a series of quick shots. His studio, his canvas, his family. The blue of his feathers becoming slightly muted with age. The show does not explain how he got there. It does not need to. The montage trusts the audience to fill in the gaps, to imagine the years between the dome landing and the painting studio, to understand that Mordecai's journey from slacker to artist was not a sudden transformation, but a slow, daily accumulation of choices. He chose to make art. He chose to keep making it. And 25 years later, he is still making it. That is not a career. That is a life. Rigby's family grows in the montage. Children appear, then more children. Eileen is beside him, always beside him, and the ease between them, the comfort of 2 people who have lived together long enough to know each other's rhythms, is visible in every frame. Rigby does not become a different person. He is still Rigby, still energetic, still slightly chaotic, but the chaos has been channeled, directed, turned towards something productive. He is raising children, and anyone who has raised children knows that productive chaos is the only kind available. Muscle Man with his family, Benson in what appears to be a position of even greater authority, managing something larger than a park, carrying the same intensity he always carried, but channeled differently. High Five Ghost pursuing his own path, and Skips, always Skips, still at the park, still maintaining, still skipping, because the vow he made centuries ago to the woman he lost does not expire. It does not weaken. It is as true now as it was the day he made it. Skips is the constant, the fixed point, the person who will be here when everyone else is gone, maintaining the park, keeping the lights on, showing love through labor in the only way he knows how. The reunion scene, 25 years later, is the emotional payload that the entire montage delivers. The characters return to the park. They are older, they move differently, they talk differently, but the park is the same, the bench is the same, the grass is the same. And when they stand there together, in the place where everything started, the weight of time is almost unbearable, because you are looking at 2 things at once. You are looking at these characters, who have lived full lives, who have done everything the show promised they would do. And you are looking at yourself, at your own relationship to this show, at the years you spent watching these characters, the emotions you felt, the laughter you shared. The reunion is not just for the characters, it is for the audience. It is the show saying, we were here together, and that mattered. Mordecai and Rigby finding the old arcade game is the perfect final beat for their relationship. Not a dramatic conversation, not a tearful declaration of friendship, a game. They sit down and they play, the way they have always played, and the laughter that comes out of them, the real, unforced, middle-aged laughter of 2 people who have known each other for decades, is the most honest sound in the entire series. They used to play games to avoid work. Now they play games to remember. The activity is the same. The meaning has transformed completely. And then Pops, watching, from somewhere else, somewhere warm, the VHS tape in the player, the label reading regular show, and Pops, who lived through it all, who sacrificed everything so that these lives could happen, watches the story of his friends and says, "Jolly good show." There is a reading of this final scene that is almost too painful to articulate. Pops is watching a VHS tape, a physical format, a medium that is, by 2017, almost entirely obsolete. The show that began with two guys in a park ends with a dead man watching a dead format. And that convergence, the obsolescence of the character and the obsolescence of the medium, is the show's final statement about what it means to create something that exists in time. Everything ends, every show gets canceled, every format gets replaced, every person dies. But the tape exists, the story exists. The joy that the story created, in Pops, in the audience, in the space between the screen and the viewer, that joy is real. It happened, and no amount of obsolescence can erase it. Let us sit with the mythology one more time. Because there is an aspect of the Pops and anti-Pops dynamic that the show handles with extraordinary nuance, and it is the aspect that most directly connects to the show's overall themes. Anti-Pops is not evil by choice. This needs to be stated plainly. He is evil by design. The universe created him to balance Pops. He is the shadow cast by the light. He is the cost of goodness. And the show, to its enormous credit, does not dehumanize him. It does not make him a cackling villain with no depth. It gives him moments of genuine menace, yes, but also moments that suggest something underneath the menace. Something that might, in another universe, in another cycle, have been different. When Pops hugs Anti-Pops in the finale, when Anti-Pops stops fighting and hugs back, the show is revealing something it has been hiding in plain sight. Anti-Pops is not Pops's enemy. He is Pops's burden. He is the thing Pops has to carry, the weight that comes with being good in a universe that demands balance. And the hug, the sacrifice, the flight into the sun is not a victory over evil. It is an acceptance of responsibility. Pops does not defeat Anti-Pops. He absorbs him. He takes the darkness into himself and carries it into the fire, not because the darkness deserves destruction, but because someone has to carry it. And Pops, gentle, kind, jolly good show Pops, is the only one willing to do so. That is not a children's story. That is a profound philosophical statement about the nature of good and evil, about responsibility and sacrifice, about the cost of being the person who always chooses kindness. And regular show makes it accessible. It wraps it in animation and comedy and VHS tapes and training montages set to Dragon Force. It makes the deepest questions feel like a conversation with a friend. And that accessibility, that refusal to be pretentious about its own depth, is the show's greatest achievement. The space arc also asks a question about memory that echoes through the finale and beyond. What survives when the universe resets? The answer, for at least 20 cycles, was nothing. Every person, every relationship, every act of kindness, every moment of beauty, all of it was erased when Pops and Anti-Pops stalemated. The universe forgot, and the only person who remembered was Earl, carrying the weight of countless lifetimes of lost people on his skin. But this time, the universe does not reset. This time, thanks to Pops, the tape keeps playing, and that means the memories survive. Mordecai remembers. Rigby remembers. Benson and Skips and Muscle Man and High Five Ghost and Eileen, they all remember. They carry the story with them into their futures, into their families, into the 25 years of life that the finale montage depicts. They name their children. They tell their stories. They go back to the park and remember. Memory, the show argues, is the thing that makes sacrifice meaningful. If no one remembers what Pops did, then his death was just a death, a thing that happened in a universe that does not care. But because they remember, because they gather in the park 25 years later and talk about him, Pops's sacrifice transcends its own moment. It becomes part of a living story, passed from person to person, generation to generation. Pops lives in their memory the way any beloved person lives in the memory of the people who loved them. Not fully, not physically, but persistently, stubbornly. In the things they do and the way they do them, in the gentleness they show to strangers, in the kindness they extend without expectation of return. That is the space arc's final argument. Not about cosmic destiny or ancient prophecy or the balance of good and evil, about memory. About the simple, human, deeply ordinary act of remembering someone you loved and letting that memory change how you live. Pops would not have called that ordinary. He would have called it a jolly good show. There is something worth examining about how the space arc handles silence. Not literal silence, although there is plenty of that too, in the quiet moments between action sequences, when the camera lingers on a face or a vista of stars. The silence the space arc handles so well is thematic silence. The things characters choose not to say, the conversations that never happen. The truths that sit in the room like furniture, present and acknowledged by everyone but never directly addressed. Skips does not talk about what he knows. This is perhaps the most significant silence in the entire season. Skips is immortal. He has lived for over 250 years. He has seen things the rest of the crew cannot imagine. And when the crew learns about Pops's true nature, about the cycle, about the inevitability of the battle, Skips already understands. You can see it in his reaction, or rather, in his lack of reaction. He does not gasp. He does not ask questions. He absorbs the information with the stillness of someone hearing a confirmation of something he suspected all along. Skips never says this. He never sits Mordecai and Rigby down and says, "I have known about this for years." He never reveals how much he understood before the rest of them. And the show does not call attention to his silence. It simply lets it exist, a pocket of unspoken knowledge in a crew that shares everything else. And the audience, if they are paying attention, can feel the weight of what Skips is carrying. Not just the knowledge of the cycle. The knowledge that he has been here before. Not in this specific situation, not with these specific people, but in the general sense. He has watched friends face impossible odds. He has watched people he cared about walk into danger they did not come back from. His immortality is not a gift. It is a front row seat to an endless parade of loss. And the space arc, by keeping Skips quiet about this, by letting his silence speak louder than any monologue could, is paying tribute to everyone who has ever held their pain privately, because expressing it would not help anyone. There is another silence that the space arc handles with equal care. The silence between Mordecai and Rigby about their future. Throughout the entire season, the two of them fight side by side, joke side by side, face death side by side. But they never talk about what happens after. They never discuss whether they will stay friends when the dome lands, whether their lives will diverge, whether the bond that has defined both of them since the beginning of the series will survive the transition from adventure to ordinary life. This silence is deliberate. The show knows that the answer is complicated. The finale's montage shows us the truth. Mordecai becomes an artist. Rigby raises a family. Their lives go in different directions. They are not Mordecai and Rigby anymore, the inseparable unit that faced every challenge together. They are Mordecai, and separately, Rigby. Two individuals who shared a chapter of their lives so intense and so formative that it will always be the defining experience of their existence, but who, ultimately, grow into separate people with separate stories. The reunion, 25 years later, is where the silence breaks. They come back. They find each other. They play the arcade game. And the laughter that emerges is the sound of two people who spent a quarter century not talking about how much they missed this specific dynamic, this particular friendship, finally allowing themselves to feel it again. The silence was not avoidance. It was protection, protecting the intensity of the memory from the dilution of daily contact. Some friendships are preserved by distance, not because the people do not care, because they care so much that proximity would make the loss of the original intensity unbearable. The show never explains this. It never has Mordecai say, "I needed space from you to become who I was supposed to be." It just shows you the separation and the reunion and trusts you to understand the geography of adult friendship. The fact that your closest friend at 23 might not be your closest friend at 40. And the fact that this is not a failure. It is just life. Now let us talk about something the show does with physical space that is easy to overlook. The dome. The literal dome that contains the park. undergoes a transformation across the season that mirrors the emotional transformation of the characters inside it. In the early episodes, the dome is a cage. It is the thing that traps the crew in space. Benson wants out. Mordecai and Rigby want to explore beyond it. The dome is a limitation, a boundary, a physical manifestation of everything the characters cannot control about their situation. The show emphasizes this by filming, if we can use that word for an animated show, the dome from the outside. We see it floating in space, small and vulnerable, surrounded by darkness. The visual language says, "You are trapped." As the season progresses, the dome becomes a shield. After space escape, after the attack, after the losses, the dome is the thing that protects the crew from anti-pops. It is their armor, their fortress, their only defense against a universe that is actively trying to destroy them. The show starts filming the dome from the inside, emphasizing the warmth within. The house, the grass, the trees, the familiar geography of the park, preserved under glass, the last fragment of Earth in an ocean of hostile space. The visual language shifts. You are sheltered. By the finale, the dome becomes a vessel. It is no longer trapping them or shielding them. It is carrying them to Lollyland, to the final battle, to the end of the story. The dome has transformed from prison to fortress to ship, and the characters within it have transformed with it. They are no longer victims of their circumstances. They are no longer hiding from the threat. They are moving toward it, deliberately, courageously, together. This transformation of setting is something animated shows rarely do well. Most shows establish a location and leave it static. The park in regular show was always the park. The same bench, the same house, the same snack bar. But the dome, by virtue of its movement through space, becomes dynamic. It changes not by changing its physical form, but by changing its function. And the show tracks this change with visual storytelling that is so subtle, most viewers absorb it unconsciously, feeling the emotional shift without being able to articulate what caused it. There is also the matter of what the dome represents in the broader context of the show's meditation on growing up. The park, for 7 seasons, was a fixed point, a place where nothing changed, where Mordecai and Rigby could always return to the bench, always count on the same routine, always know that tomorrow would look like today. The dome seals the park, preserves it, and then hurls it into the unknown. This is exactly what adulthood does to childhood. It preserves the memories, seals them in amber, and then carries them into a world that bears no resemblance to the one where those memories were formed. You still have the bench. You still have the house, but they are floating in space now, surrounded by darkness, and nothing about the context is familiar. The park crew's response to this displacement, their gradual transformation from panicked castaways to purposeful travelers, is the show's most optimistic statement about growing up. You do not leave your childhood behind. You carry it with you. The things that mattered then still matter now. But the context changes, and the challenge is to find new meaning in old spaces. To let the bench be something different than it was before. To let the house shelter you against new threats. To let the park, the place where you learned who you are, become the vehicle that carries you toward who you will become. Let us also look at the space ark's approach to comedy in more granular detail, because the way individual jokes are constructed reveals the show's understanding of its own medium. Spacey McSpacetree, Episode 10, aired October 5th, 2016. Rigby has to pass a safety test. The person administering the test is named Spacey McSpacetree, and he is, without exaggeration, one of the most annoying characters in the history of the show. He is pedantic. He is condescending. He is the embodiment of bureaucratic obstruction. And Rigby, who has spent 7 seasons bristling against authority, has to sit through his test, answer his questions, and comply with his procedures. The comedy here operates on multiple levels simultaneously. On the surface, it is a funny situation, a slacker forced to take a test administered by the worst possible person. On a character level, it is a callback to Rigby's entire arc. He went back to high school. He graduated. He proved he could commit to something difficult. And now, in space, he is being tested again. Not on knowledge, on patience, on his ability to tolerate something tedious without exploding. And on a thematic level, the episode is about institutional absurdity. The Space Tree Station has safety procedures. Those procedures are important, but the person enforcing them has turned the procedures into a power trip, using rules designed to protect people as tools to control them. The show is satirizing bureaucracy, yes, but it is also asking a real question. What happens when the structures meant to keep you safe become the things that hold you back? Rigby has to pass the test, but the test, as administered, is not about safety. It is about obedience. And Rigby's struggle with it, his instinctive rebellion against arbitrary authority, is the same struggle that has defined him since the first episode of the series. Stuck in an Elevator, episode 12, does something similar with its comedy. The setup is a bottle episode, characters trapped in a confined space. The payoff is character interaction, and the show uses the confinement to create comedy that comes entirely from personality friction. Mordecai's pragmatism bumping against Rigby's impatience. Benson's need for control rubbing against the uncontrollable situation. Muscleman's jokes landing differently when there is nowhere to walk away to. Pops trying to maintain his cheerfulness in a space where everyone else is losing theirs. What makes this comedy work, what makes it more than just funny, is that every clash is rooted in years of established character. The audience knows exactly why Mordecai and Rigby argue the way they do. The audience knows exactly why Benson's response is to try to take charge. The audience knows exactly why Muscleman tells jokes when things get tense. These are not generic comedy beats. They are character-specific comedy beats. Jokes that only work because these specific people are telling them in this specific situation. And that specificity is what separates regular shows' humor from the humor of lesser animated shows. The jokes are not interchangeable. You could not give Mordecai's lines to Rigby or Benson's reactions to Skip's. Every character's comedy comes from who they are, and who they are has been established over 200 episodes. The space arc gets to harvest 7 years of character work and turn it into comedy gold. Let us also consider the space arc in terms of what it means for Cartoon Network as a creative institution. Regular Show premiered in 2010, alongside Adventure Time, as part of a wave of animated shows that redefined what the network could be. These shows, created by young animators who had grown up watching Cartoon Network, brought a sensibility that was simultaneously nostalgic and innovative. They loved cartoons, they respected the medium, and they wanted to push it further than it had ever been pushed. Regular Show, in particular, pushed the boundaries of what a comedy could contain. It smuggled existential themes into 11-minute episodes about haunted houses and possessed video games. It depicted real emotional complexity in a format that most people assumed was incapable of it. And its final season, the Space Arc, was the culmination of that ambition. A season-long story about mortality, identity, sacrifice, and the meaning of existence, told through the lens of a gumball machine manager and a talking raccoon. The show's ratings for the finale tell their own story. A regular epic final battle drew 1.33 million viewers for its first part, and 1.37 million for its second, making it the most watched episode of the entire season. Those are not enormous numbers by network television standards, but they represent something meaningful. Over 1 million people watched a cartoon end with a character hugging his evil twin and flying into the sun, and they cared. They felt something. They went to bed that night thinking about a lollipop man who loved the world too much to let it end. That is the legacy of the Space Arc, not the ratings, not the critical reception, not the place it holds in lists of best animated finales. The legacy is the feeling it left in over 1 million people on a January night in 2017. The feeling that a story they loved had ended well, that the characters they cared about had been treated with respect, that the show had earned its ending by being brave enough to actually end, to let the characters grow old, to let the gentle character die, to let the VHS tape eject and the screen go dark. The Space Arc is a reminder that animated shows are capable of anything, that 11-minute episodes and 22-minute episodes and 33-minute finales can contain multitudes, that a show about 2 slackers at a park can, over 8 seasons, become a show about what it means to be alive, and that the medium, the bright colors, and the exaggerated movements, and the impossible physics is not a limitation, it is a liberation. It frees the storytellers to go places that live action cannot. To show a man hugging his shadow self and flying into a sun. To show 25 years of aging in a 3-minute montage. To show an afterlife as a room with a VHS player and a television and a dead man who is still watching, still caring, still saying good show. There is a specific kind of loneliness that comes from being the last person who remembers something important. Earl knows this loneliness. Skips knows it. And in a smaller but no less real way, every person who watches regular show after the cultural moment has passed knows it too. You watch the show in 2026, or 2030, or 2050, and you feel what it makes you feel. And you look around, and there is no one to share it with. The subreddit is quieter. The fan art has slowed. The cultural conversation has moved on. But the show is still there. The tape is still playing. And Pops is still watching, from his warm, bright room, and his verdict has not changed. Jolly good show. Now and always. Jolly good show. The relationship between Mordecai and Eileen in the space arc deserves more attention than it typically receives, because it reveals something important about how the show handles growth that is not dramatic. For most of the series, Mordecai and Eileen barely interact. He knows her as Rigby's girlfriend, Margaret's friend, the quiet one at the coffee shop. He does not disrespect her. He simply does not see her. She exists in his peripheral vision, present but unexamined. The space arc changes this, not through a dramatic scene or a revelatory conversation, through proximity. In the dome, there is no peripheral vision. Everyone sees everyone, and Mordecai, perhaps for the first time, actually looks at Eileen. He sees her competence. He sees her calm. He sees the way she handles crises without drama, without seeking attention, without needing anyone to acknowledge her contribution. And the show does not have Mordecai comment on this. It does not give him a line where he says, "I never realized how capable you are." It just shows you, through shot composition and blocking, through whose face the camera holds on during key moments, that Mordecai's awareness of Eileen has expanded. This is how real recognition works. Not through speeches, through attention, through the slow process of actually seeing someone you have been looking past for years. And the space arc, by placing these characters in close quarters for 28 episodes, forces this kind of seeing on all of them. They discover things about each other that 7 seasons of working together never revealed, because working together was not the same as living together, and living together was not the same as surviving together. Proximity under pressure strips away the social contracts that allow people to remain strangers. In the dome, in space, running from anti-pops, there is no room for polite distance. You see each other whole, and the space arc trusts that what you see, when you actually look, is worth loving. High Five Ghost's role in the space arc is limited compared to the other main characters, and the show has been fairly criticized for not giving him a fully realized conclusion. But there is something to be said for what his presence represents. High Five Ghost is a ghost. He is dead, in some fundamental ontological sense. He has always been dead, and yet he is here, in the dome, in space, fighting alongside his friends, refusing to accept the permanence that his very existence embodies. That refusal is the space arc's most understated commentary on mortality, a ghost who fears death, a dead being who fights to keep living. It is absurd. It is also deeply human, because every living thing fears death, even the ones who should know better, even the ones who have already crossed the line and come back. And High Five Ghost, by standing with his friends on Lollyland, by choosing to fight despite everything his existence tells him about the futility of resistance, is making the same argument the rest of the crew is making, that life is worth fighting for, that the fight is the point, not the outcome, not the guarantee of survival, the fight itself. The decision to stand and be counted, even if you are already a ghost. The sound design of the space arc is another element that deserves recognition. The show's regular soundtrack, composed of synthesizer-driven tracks that evoke the 1980s nostalgia regular show always traded in, shifts during Season 8. The music becomes wider, more ambient, more spacious, literally. The synthesizers are still there, but they are surrounded by more silence, more empty space in the mix, creating a sonic landscape that mirrors the visual landscape of the dome floating through the void. This is not a coincidence. The The show's audio team understood that the space arc required a different sonic palette. The park had birds, traffic, wind, the sounds of a living world pressing in from every direction. Space has none of that. Space is silence, punctuated by the hum of the dome's systems, the distant clank of machinery, the muffled voices of people trying to make themselves heard in a place that was never designed for human habitation. And the music responds to this. It becomes more sparse, more haunting, more willing to let silence do the work. The most effective use of sound in the space arc is during space escape. The attack on the space tree station is loud. Explosions, alarms, voices shouting over each other. The chaos is overwhelming. And then, when the dome escapes, when it shoots away from the burning station, the sound drops. Not to silence, but to near silence. The hum of the dome, the breathing of the crew, the distant crackle of the explosion they left behind. And in that near silence, the weight of what just happened becomes real. The noise was the event. The silence is the aftermath. And the aftermath, the show understands, is always heavier than the event itself. The show's use of color throughout the space arc is equally deliberate. The park, inside the dome, retains its warm greens and browns, the familiar palette of 7 seasons. But the space outside the dome is rendered in deep blues, purples, and blacks, colors that emphasize the cold, the distance, the fundamental inhospitability of the environment. When the dome passes by planets or stations, the color palette shifts to incorporate the new location's hues: oranges for desert planets, whites for ice worlds, pinks for Lollyland. Each color shift signals a new chapter, a new challenge, a new emotional register. Lollyland's pink palette is particularly effective. Pink is the color of Pops, his skin, his clothing, the color of warmth, of sweetness, of innocence. And Lollyland, the planet that should be Pops's home, is pink. But it is a ruined pink, a devastated pink. The color of something beautiful that has been destroyed and rebuilt, and destroyed again so many times that the beauty is now inseparable from the ruin. And when Pops walks on Lollyland, when he stands on the pink surface of a planet that shares his color, the visual message is unmistakable. This is where he comes from. This is where he belongs. And this is what the cycle has done to it. There is a reading of the space arc that positions it within the broader landscape of animated television finales. And that reading reveals just how unusual regular shows' ending actually is. Most animated shows do not end. They get canceled, they fade, they run until the ratings drop or the creative team burns out, and then they stop, often without a proper conclusion. The shows that do get finales, shows like Avatar, The Last Airbender, or Gravity Falls, or Adventure Time, tend to end with triumph. The hero wins, the villain loses. The world is saved. There may be sadness, there may be sacrifice, but the overall tone is celebratory. The audience leaves feeling good. Regular show's finale is not triumphant. It is not sad either. It is something rarer and more difficult. It is bittersweet. The hero wins, but the hero dies. The world is saved, but the person who saved it is gone. The friends survive, but they carry a loss that shapes the rest of their lives. And the show asks the audience to hold both of those things at once: the joy and the grief, the celebration and the mourning, and to understand that this is what real endings feel like. Not clean, not simple, not purely happy or purely sad, but both, always both. This bittersweetness is the space arc's greatest gift to its audience, because most of the people watching regular show in January of 2017 were teenagers or young adults. They had grown up with the show. They were, in a very real sense, the same age as Mordecai and Rigby when the show began, and they had grown alongside them. And the show's ending, with its message that life continues after loss, that grief and joy can coexist, that the people you love leave marks on you that never fully fade, was a message those viewers needed to hear. Not because they had experienced cosmic battles, because they had experienced or would soon experience the ordinary losses that every life contains. Friends moving away, relationships ending, childhoods giving way to adulthood, the slow, uncomfortable, unavoidable process of becoming someone who does not fit into the spaces you used to occupy. The space arc is a metaphor for that process. The dome launches. The park is the same, but everything around it has changed. The crew has to adapt, has to grow, has to become people they did not expect to become. And by the end, they are different. Better in most ways. But different. And the show does not pretend that different is painless. It acknowledges the cost of growth. It honors the things that were lost along the way. And it argues, quietly, persistently, through every episode and every character arc, that the cost is worth paying. That growth, despite its pain, is preferable to the alternative. That the alternative, the cycle, the reset, the eternal repetition of the same patterns, is not stability, it is stagnation. And stagnation, the show insists, is the only real death. The fact that regular show, a show about two slackers who set things on fire and talked to a gumball machine, arrived at this level of philosophical depth is itself a kind of miracle. But it is not a miracle of sudden inspiration. It is a miracle of sustained effort. Of 8 seasons of careful, patient, disciplined storytelling. Of writers who respected their characters enough to let them grow. Of a creator who planted a seed in a CalArts classroom in 2005 and tended it for 12 years until it became a tree tall enough to hold the weight of everything the show wanted to say. The space arc is the crown of that tree. It is where everything converges. Every theme the show explored, every relationship it built, every risk it took. The space arc gathers all of it, compresses it into 28 episodes, and delivers it with a clarity and emotional force that validates the entire series. You could watch the space arc without having seen the rest of the show and be moved by it. But if you have watched the rest of the show, if you have been there from the beginning, from the bench and the sunny afternoons and the vending machine that turned into a monster, the space arc is not just good television. It is the fulfillment of a promise the show made in its very first episode. The promise that these characters mattered, that their story was going somewhere, that the chaos was not random but building towards something, and that something would be worth the wait. It was worth the wait. But there is more to say. Because the space arc does not just end well, it ends specifically. The choices made in the finale's final minutes are so precise, so carefully considered, that they deserve to be examined individually. The decision to have Pops die is the most important creative choice in the entire series. It would have been easy, and perhaps more commercially viable, to let Pops survive, to have him defeat anti-Pops through the power of friendship and return to the park and resume his life. The audience would have cheered, the ending would have been happy, and it would have been a lie. It would have been a lie because the entire show, from its first episode, has been about consequences. Actions have consequences. Supernatural events have consequences. Growth has consequences. And the ultimate consequence, the one the show had been circling for 8 seasons, is that being good costs something. That kindness is not free. That the person who absorbs everyone else's pain, who smooths every conflict, who makes every room brighter just by being in it, that person is carrying a weight that will eventually become unbearable. Pops carried that weight, and the finale is the moment the weight becomes too heavy for one person, even a cosmic person, to bear alone. But instead of being crushed by it, Pops transforms it. He turns the weight into motion, into flight, into a hug that carries him and his brother into the sun. The weight does not disappear. It is converted, from burden to sacrifice, from suffering to grace. That conversion is what makes the ending profound, rather than merely sad. Pops does not die as a victim, he dies as a choice. He chooses the sun, he chooses the hug, he chooses to end the cycle not through superior force, but through superior love. And the word superior matters here. Pops's love is not sentimental, it is not weak, it is not passive. It is the most powerful force in the entire regular show universe, powerful enough to do what 20 incarnations of cosmic energy could not. It stops the cycle, not by fighting harder, by refusing to fight at all. By introducing a variable the universe never accounted for, genuine, unconditional, non-strategic love. Love that does not want anything. Love that does not calculate outcomes. Love that hugs the thing trying to kill it and says, "Through the embrace, I would rather die with you than live in a world where we are enemies." The decision to set the finale montage to David Bowie's Heroes is the second most important creative choice. The song was not written for the show. It was not commissioned. It was licensed. which means the production team had to fight for it, had to allocate a significant portion of their budget to secure the rights. And the reason they fought is that no other song could do what Heroes does in this context. The song is about temporality, about being heroes for just one day, about the knowledge that the heroism will not last, that the lovers will not stay, that the wall between them and the world will not hold. And the show places this song over a montage that spans 25 years. The contradiction is the point. Bowie says one day, the show says a lifetime, and the gap between those two time frames is where the emotion lives. Because Bowie is right, we are heroes for just one day. Every day is that one day. Every morning, you wake up and choose to be present, to be kind, to care about the people around you. And every night, that day ends, and you do not know if you will make the same choice tomorrow. The heroism is daily. The heroism is temporary. And the show, by stretching Bowie's one day across a quarter century, is arguing that a lifetime of daily heroism is the most extraordinary thing a person can achieve. The decision to end with the VHS tape is the third crucial choice. A VHS tape is analog. It degrades. It wears out. Every time you play it, the quality diminishes slightly. It is a format that carries its own mortality in its mechanics. And Pops, watching regular show on a VHS tape in the afterlife, is watching a copy, a recording, a version of events that has been captured, compressed, and stored on a medium that will eventually fail. The show is not preserved in crystal. It is preserved in magnetic tape, in something fragile, something human. This is not an accident. The show could have given Pops a digital screen, a holographic display, a cosmic window into the universe. Instead, it gave him a VHS player and a tape with a handwritten label. And that choice says everything about regular show's values. The show does not believe in permanence. It does not believe in eternal preservation. It believes in things that are real precisely because they are temporary. The tape will degrade. The show will end. The characters will grow old and die. And none of that diminishes the value of what happened. The value is in the happening, in the watching. In the moment when Pops ejects the tape and says good show and means it, not because the show was perfect, not because the show will last forever, but because the show was real, because it happened, because for 8 seasons, these characters laughed and fought and loved and lost, and it all mattered, even though it was always going to end. Let us also talk about what the space arc reveals about the relationship between Pops and Mr. Maellard, because this relationship is one of the show's most underexplored emotional threads, and the space arc gives it a resolution that is both devastating and tender. Mr. Maellard found Pops in an asteroid. This is established in the show's lore. During his younger years, Mr. Maellard worked as a meteor fragment salesman, and during one expedition, he discovered an asteroid containing a baby from Lollyland. He adopted the baby. He named it Pops, because the baby looked old. He bought a park so that his adopted son could grow up in a safe, normal environment. Think about what that means. Mr. Maellard, a businessman, a gruff, sometimes dismissive, often emotionally unavailable man, found a baby in an asteroid and decided to love it. He did not understand what it was. He did not know about Lollyland, or Mega Kranus, or the cycle of universal destruction. He just saw a baby that needed a home and gave it one. And then he spent decades raising that baby, protecting it, building a life around it, all while being the kind of father who was better at providing stability than expressing affection. The space arc separates them. When the dome launches, Mr. Maellard is on Earth, Pops is in space, and they never see each other again. Pops dies in the finale. Mr. Maellard dies years later, having never seen his son after the launch. The show does not give them a final conversation. It does not give them a phone call or a letter or a telepathic connection. They are separated by the void of space, and the void does not care about their relationship. This is perhaps the cruelest thing the show does, and it does it so quietly that many viewers miss it entirely. A father who found a baby in an asteroid and built his entire life around protecting it never gets to say goodbye. A son who was loved, imperfectly but genuinely, by a man who had no obligation to love him, never gets to tell that man what he meant. The show does not dramatize this loss. It does not put a spotlight on it. It mentions it in the margins of the epilogue, in the background details of the montage, and moves on. And the restraint, the refusal to wring tears from this particular tragedy, is what makes it hit so hard. Because the show is treating Pops and Mr. Maellard's separation the way real life treats most separations. Without ceremony, without closure, without the dramatic farewell that movies and television have taught us to expect. Just absence. Just the slow realization that the last time you saw someone was the last time you will ever see someone, and you did not know it then, and knowing it now does not help. The implications of Mr. Maellard's role in the dome launches also deserve examination. He was implicated in the conspiracy. He knew about the domes. He knew about the launches, which means he knew, on some level, that sending the parks into space was connected to Pops's nature, to the destiny that Mr. Maellard had been protecting his son from for decades. And he let it happen. He participated in the system that sent his son into space, away from Earth, away from safety, toward the confrontation that would kill him. Was this betrayal? Was this sacrifice? Was this a father's terrible, calculated decision to stop protecting his child and let the child face the truth that protection had been hiding? The show does not answer these questions. It does not exonerate Mr. Maellard or condemn him. It presents the facts, the dome, the launch, the implication, and lets the audience sit with the ambiguity. And that ambiguity is one of the space arc's most mature storytelling choices. Real family relationships are not clean. Real parents make decisions that hurt their children, not always out of malice, sometimes out of love, sometimes out of fear, sometimes out of a desperate, flawed understanding of what the child needs. Mr. Maellard may have believed that the launch was the only way to save Pops, or he may have believed that the launch was the only way to save the world from Pops, or he may not have understood any of it, and he was just a man caught in a system too large and too old for any single person to control. The show lets all of these readings coexist. It does not choose one, and in not choosing, it achieves something that most animated shows never attempt: moral complexity in a parental relationship, the acknowledgement that love and harm can come from the same source, that the person who protects you and the person who sends you into danger can be the same person, and that person can love you through both acts. Now let us step back and look at the space arc as a complete object. 28 episodes, approximately 5.5 hours of animation. A story that begins with panic and ends with peace. That begins with a dome launching into the void and ends with a VHS tape ejecting from a player. That begins with characters who do not know who they are and ends with characters who have lived long enough to look back on who they were and laugh. The space arc does not waste a single episode. This is perhaps its most remarkable quality and the one most difficult to achieve. Every episode serves the whole. The comedic episodes build the world. The mythological episodes deepen the characters. The action episodes advance the plot. The breather episodes provide the emotional rest that makes the climaxes land. There is no filler. In a season of 28 episodes, there is not a single one you could remove without losing something important. Compare this to other final seasons of beloved animated shows. Many stumble, many lose their way. Many introduce mythology too late or resolve it too quickly, or abandon character arcs in favor of spectacle. The space arc does none of this. It is disciplined from start to finish. It knows what story it is telling. It knows the beats that story requires, and it hits every one of them with precision and care. The reason for this discipline, the reason the space arc works as well as it does, is that J.G. Quintel and his team knew the ending before they started. They knew Pops would sacrifice himself. They knew the dome would return to Earth. They knew the montage would show 25 years of life. They knew the VHS tape would play and stop and the screen would go dark. And because they knew the ending, they could build toward it. Every episode, every joke, every character beat was placed in service of a destination the writers had already chosen. The space arc is not a story that was discovered in the writing. It is a story that was designed, engineered, constructed with the same care and attention that a watchmaker brings to a mechanism that must keep perfect time. And the result is perfect time. Every gear turns, every spring releases at the right moment. The space arc ticks forward with the inevitability of a countdown, and when it reaches 0, when the screen goes white and Pops is gone, the audience knows, with a certainty that transcends analysis, that this was the only way the story could end. Not because the ending was predictable, because the ending was inevitable. Because every episode that came before it, from the premiere to the penultimate, was pointing here, to the sun, to the hug, to the tape. The voice actors deserve recognition here, because the emotional truth of the space arc rests as much on their performances as it does on the writing. Sam Marin, who voices both Pops and Benson, as well as Muscle Man, carries an extraordinary burden in the final episodes. He has to play Pops's fear, his resolve, his gentleness under impossible pressure. And he has to do it in a voice that the audience has associated with comedy and whimsy for 8 seasons. The shift from "jolly good show" as a cheerful exclamation to "jolly good show" as a dying man's final words is entirely in the delivery. The words are the same, the voice is the same, and the meaning could not be more different. Marin threads this needle with the precision of someone who has lived inside this character for nearly a decade and understands, at a cellular level, what Pops would sound like in his final moment. Not dramatic, not weeping, calm, content, grateful, watching his friends on a VHS tape and feeling, in the deepest part of himself, that it was all worth it. William Salyers, who voices Rigby, gives what might be his finest performance in the space arc. Rigby's emotional register in Season 8 is wider than it has ever been. He is still funny, he is still impulsive, but there are moments, particularly in the episodes after Space Escape, where Rigby's voice drops into a register that Salyers has rarely used before. Quieter, more careful, more aware of the weight of words. When Rigby speaks to Pops in the later episodes, there is a tenderness in the performance that is genuinely startling, because it comes from a character who spent 7 seasons expressing affection, through teasing, through competition, through the casual cruelty of best friends who assume they will always have time to say the real thing. In the space arc, time is no longer assumed, and Rigby's voice, through Salyers' performance, carries the knowledge that every conversation might be the last one. J.G. Quintel, who voices Mordecai, brings a maturity to the final season that mirrors the character's arc. Mordecai's voice in Season 1 was higher, looser, more prone to emotional swings. By Season 8, the voice has settled. It is deeper, more measured, more deliberate. Mordecai sounds like a person who has been through enough to know that yelling does not help, and that silence sometimes says more than words. And Quintel, as both creator and voice actor, inhabits this evolved version of his character, with an authority that only comes from having built the character from nothing and watched him grow over 8 years. Robert Englund voices Anti-Pops. This is not a minor detail. Englund, best known for his iconic portrayal of Freddy Krueger in the Nightmare on Elm Street franchise, brings a specific quality to Anti-Pops that few other actors could. His Anti-Pops is menacing but not monstrous, cold but not empty. There are moments in Englund's performance where you can hear something underneath the villainy, a weariness, a resignation, the exhaustion of a being who has been playing the same role in the same cosmic drama for billions of years and is tired, not of destroying, but of the repetition. Anti-Pops is not enjoying himself. He is not savoring his power. He is fulfilling a function, the way a machine fulfills a function, and Englund's performance makes you feel the tragedy of that mechanical existence. When Anti-Pops is finally hugged, when Pops wraps his arms around him and flies into the sun, Englund lets Anti-Pops make a sound. Not a word, a sound, something between surrender and relief. The sound of a being who has been locked in a role for eternity and is finally, in the moment of his destruction, set free. If this analysis has given you a new appreciation for the show, subscribing is the best way to let us know. These performances are the invisible architecture of the space arc. The writing provides the structure, the animation provides the visuals, but the voices, the specific, irreplaceable, deeply human voices of the actors are what make the characters breathe. What make Pops' sacrifice feel real? What make Rigby's growth feel earned? What make Anti-Pops' destruction feel like liberation rather than defeat? The space arc is great writing performed by great actors, and neither element alone would be sufficient. Together, they create something that transcends both. Something that lives in the ear the way great music lives in the ear. Something you hear, years later, when you least expect it, and you remember. You remember a blue jay and a raccoon and a park and a dome, and a man made of lollipops who flew into the sun because he loved his brother too much to let the universe die. You remember the voices, and the voices carry the story forward, long after the screen goes dark, long after the tape ejects, long after the last word of the last episode of the last season fades into silence and memory, and the deep, abiding warmth of something that was, in every way that matters, a jolly good show. There is one final detail that deserves attention, and it is the quietest detail in the entire space arc. In the finale, after Pops sacrifices himself, after the dome returns to Earth, after the crew reunites with their families, after Heroes plays, and 25 years pass in a montage, there is a statue. In the park, a statue of Pops. The crew built it, or someone built it, to commemorate what he did. And it stands there, in the grass, in the sunlight, in the park where Pops used to walk and laugh and say hello to strangers. The show does not call attention to the statue. It does not zoom in on it. It does not have a character give a speech in front of it. It is just there, in the background, visible if you are looking, invisible if you are not. And that, more than any dialogue or plot point or cosmic revelation, is the show telling you how it feels about Pops. He does not need a spotlight. He does not need a speech. He just needs to be there, present, remembered, standing in the park, in the sun, forever. Let us return, one last time, to the specific episodes that form the backbone of the second half of the space arc, because there are details in each that reward closer attention. New Beds, Episode 16, aired October 13th, 2016. On the surface, this is a simple episode about the crew needing new equipment after the destruction of the Space Tree Station. They visit a space marketplace. They encounter a bounty hunter. There is a chase. The episode resolves. But underneath this surface plot, New Beds is about the crew's first steps as independent operators. At the Space Tree Station, they had infrastructure. They had support. They had Rawls. Now they have nothing but the dome and each other. And the act of buying beds, of acquiring the basic equipment needed for survival, is the act of building a new life from scratch. It is starting over. And the bounty hunter, lurking in the marketplace, is the show's way of reminding the audience that starting over does not mean starting safe. Auntie Pops is still looking for them. The universe is still hostile. And the beds they buy, the small comforts they manage to acquire, are temporary. Everything in the second half of the space arc is temporary. That temporality is the point. Mordecai and Rigby, Episode 17, aired October 14th, 2016, deserves deeper analysis than it usually receives. The body swap premise, Mordecai and Rigby progressively swapping physical features after a teleportation accident, is inherently funny. Two characters who could not be more physically different, a tall blue jay and a small brown raccoon, slowly becoming each other. But the episode is also doing something remarkably sophisticated with its central metaphor. When Mordecai finds himself in Rigby's smaller body, he makes an insensitive comment about it. He says something about being stuck short, and Rigby, who has spent the entire series being smaller, weaker, and physically less impressive than his best friend, takes this personally. Not as a joke, as a wound. Because the comment reveals something Mordecai has never said aloud but has always felt, that he considers Rigby's body, and by extension Rigby himself, to be lesser, smaller, less capable. Rigby responds by beating Mordecai at punchies. For the first time, using Mordecai's own body against him, and the moment is played for comedy, but it is also a genuine catharsis. Rigby has spent 7 seasons being physically dominated by Mordecai, being picked up, thrown around, out-muscled in every contest. And now, through the accident of the body swap, he gets to feel what it is like to be the bigger one, to be the one with the advantage. And instead of showing magnanimity, instead of being the bigger person in the metaphorical sense, he uses his temporary advantage to settle a score. The show does not judge him for this. It understands that 7 seasons of physical inferiority cannot be erased by one noble gesture. Rigby needed to hit back. Not out of malice, out of dignity, out of the simple human need to prove, to himself if no one else, that size is not destiny. And the episode, by letting him have this moment, is paying off one of the longest-running dynamics in the entire series. The connection to the space arc's larger themes is clear. The body swap is a version of the identity question the whole season is asking. Who are you when your circumstances change? Who are you when the body you inhabit is not the one you were born into? And the answer, for both Mordecai and Rigby, is the same answer the space arc keeps giving. You are the choices you make, not the body you wear, not the power you wield, not the position you hold, the choices. And Rigby's choice to beat Mordecai at punchies, petty as it is a choice that asserts his identity with more force than any speech ever could. Terror Tales of the Park 6, the Halloween special that aired on October 27, 2016, is the space arc's most self-aware episode. The Terror Tales episodes have always been the show's chance to play with genre, to tell stories that do not fit the normal format, to be darker or stranger or more experimental than the weekly episodes allow. And the sixth installment, set in space, uses the horror anthology format to explore fears that are specific to the space arc. The 3 segments deal with fear manifestation, vampires, and an alien roommate. Each is comedic. Each is scary in the way regular show has always been scary. Not through gore or shock, but through the discomfort of the uncanny, the familiar made strange. And each, in its own way, is about the crew's subconscious anxieties about their situation. The fear manifestation story is literally about fears becoming real. The vampire story is about being drained, having your energy and vitality slowly sucked away by something parasitic. The alien roommate story is about sharing space with something you do not understand and cannot control. These are not random horror premises. They are the crew's actual fears, translated into narrative. They are afraid of what is hunting them. They are afraid of being worn down by the relentlessness of their situation. They are afraid of the alien universe they now inhabit. And the show gives them a space, the controlled, playful space of the Halloween special, to confront those fears, to laugh at them, to turn them into stories that have beginnings and middles and ends, because stories can be survived in a way that formless dread cannot. This is what storytelling does, and it is what regular show, as a show about storytelling, understands at its core. You take the thing that frightens you, you give it a shape, you put it in a narrative frame, and then you can look at it, you can examine it, you can laugh at it. And when the story ends, the fear is still there, but it is smaller now. It fits in a story. It has edges. It can be contained. The Terror Tales episodes are not just Halloween specials. They are the show's therapy sessions, the place where the characters process what they are going through by turning it into fiction. And the fact that these characters are already fictional, that they are processing fictional experiences through further fiction, creates a mirror effect that extends outward to the audience. We watch the crew tell stories about their fears. We recognize our own fears in those stories. And the recognition, the laughter, the shared experience of naming what frightens us is the healing, not a cure, but a start. Christmas in Space, the 4-part holiday special that aired on December 1st, 2016, serves a similar therapeutic function, but where the Halloween special processes fear, the Christmas special processes hope. The crew decorates the dome. They create warmth in the cold of space. They insist, against all evidence and all logic, that celebration is possible, that joy is not conditional on safety, that you can have Christmas in a dome hurtling through the void toward a planet where your friend is destined to fight his evil twin to the death. The 4 segments of the Christmas special, featuring a Yeti, a supernatural caroler, an interdimensional mall, and Krampus, are each absurd in the way regular show has always been absurd. They take holiday traditions and escalate them into cosmic chaos. But the framing, the crew choosing to celebrate, is not absurd at all. It is the most rational thing they do all season. Because celebration is an act of defiance. It says, I know things are bad. I know tomorrow might be worse. But today, right now, in this moment, I am going to put up decorations and give gifts and eat too much food and be grateful for the people around me. That is not denial. That is courage. And the crew's Christmas, their insistence on joy in the face of potential annihilation, is the same insistence that Pops will carry into the final battle. The insistence that love is worth expressing even when, especially when, the world is ending. The space arc of regular show is a story about what happens when ordinary people are placed in extraordinary circumstances. It is a story about friendship and sacrifice, and the terrifying, beautiful, irreversible act of growing up. It is a story about a gentle man who loved the world so much that he carried its darkness into the sun. And it is a story about a show that knew exactly when to end, and ended with more grace, more courage, and more heart than anyone had a right to expect from a cartoon about two guys who once played rock, paper, scissors to decide who had to clean the gutters. There is a version of regular show that never goes to space. In that version, the show ends at season 7. Rigby graduates. The characters move on. The park stays on the ground. And the show is fine. It is a good show that ran for a long time and told its stories well and ended when it had nothing left to say. That version of the show is complete. It is satisfying. And it is immeasurably less than what we got. Because the space arc does not just end the show. It transforms it. It reaches back through 7 seasons and retroactively changes the meaning of everything that came before. Every time Pops said "jolly good show," he was a cosmic being expressing genuine joy at the small pleasures of mortal life. Every time Mordecai and Rigby fought a supernatural threat, they were training for a battle they did not know was coming. Every time Benson yelled about work not getting done, he was a man trying to maintain order in a universe that was, at its deepest level, built on chaos. Every time Skips fixed something, he was an immortal being practicing the only form of love he trusted, the kind that comes with a wrench and does not require words. The space arc does not add to the show. It completes it. It takes a show that was always good and makes it something more. Something that stays with you. Something that changes how you think about kindness, about sacrifice, about what it means to watch a story end and carry it forward in your own life. The dome lands. The park returns to Earth. The grass is still green. The sun is still warm. The bench is still there. The house is still standing. And in the years that follow, the characters live. They age. They gather. They remember. And in a room beyond the world, on a television that should not exist, a tape plays, and a man watches, and the story continues, even after it ends, because stories do not die when they stop being told. They die when they stop being remembered. And this story, this strange, beautiful, funny, devastating story about 2 slackers and a park and a gentle man who loved the world enough to burn for it, this story will be remembered for a very long time. Pops watches his tape. The static fills the screen. He ejects the cassette. He smiles. Jolly good show. If you enjoyed the video, make sure to subscribe and I'll see you in the next one.